Councillor Guerin, Councillor Hannafy, Councillor Haughey, Councillor Healy, Councillor Hopkins, Councillor Humphreys, Councillor Johnston, Councillor Kelly, Councillor Kitt, Councillor Leddy, Councillor Maguire, Councillor McCamley, Councillor McDonough, Councillor Mulligan, Councillor Mulville, Councillor Murphy, Councillor Newman, Councillor O'Brien, Councillor O'Leary,
Here.
Councillor Onyemera, Councillor Quinlan, Councillor Quinn, apologies Councillor Redwood, Councillor Ryan, apologies Councillor Sheehan, Councillor Shovlin, Councillor Smith, Councillor Tormley, Councillor Troy, Councillor Walsh.
Thanks very much. Just some housekeeping. All mobile phones should be on silent or switched off for the duration of the meeting. Please note that this meeting is being webcast. All members, please remember to switch off your microphone when you have finished speaking. All members are reminded that the chamber is a non-smoking vaping area. Standing orders will apply to all aspects of the meeting. Councillors are reminded of the provisions of Standing Order number 92, that all members are bound to act in accordance with the Ethics Framework and Code of Conduct for local authority members, to cooperate with the orderly conduct of meetings, the direction of the Mayor, and in a manner that is respectful of colleagues. Members have been circulated with the agenda for today's meeting, and any member forming the view that they may have a conflict of interest in the matters of the subject to today's agenda should now disclose same. Councillors are also reminded of the provisions of Standing Order number 93, that members must bear in mind that discussions at council meetings are not privileged. No member may make false statements, impute improper motives, or use offensive or unbecoming words in reference to any member of the council, employee of the council, or any other person. Any member having made such statements or used such objectionable words, or not explaining or retracting same, or offering apologies for the use thereof when requested by the Mayor to do so, shall be called upon by the Mayor to withdraw from the meeting. Members making any such statements or comments may find themselves personally liable for them. I just want to note the apologies. We have apology from Councillor Redwood and Councillor Sheehan. I have received one emergency motion which, having taken advice, I have ruled out of order, and the Councillor has been notified. Finally, on behalf of all the elected members and the Executive of Fingal County Council, I would like to express our sincere condolences to the family of James Walsh, who passed away this weekend at the Skerries 100, and also to the members of Lochshinnie Motorcycle Supporters Club, the organisers of the event, and the wide motorcycle community. Okay, so I've just been informed that we're having some technical difficulties, so some of the stuff that goes up on the screen is a bit delayed, so bear with us. So down to the order of business. So confirmation and reaffirmation of the minutes. A confirmation and reaffirmation of the minutes of the council meeting held on Monday, the 8th of June 2026. I need a proposer and seconder, please. Proposed Mary McCamley, and seconder Kieran Dennison. And confirmation and reaffirmation of minutes of the annual meeting held on Friday, the 12th of June 2026. Proposed Mary McCamley and James Humphreys. Thank you. So I need a proposer and seconder for questions 2 to 12. Councillor O'Brien proposed, seconded by Councillor Corkery. Item number 13, report of committees. A report of environmental funding for the anti-litter, anti-graffiti grants, 3 area committees servicing B meetings. Proposer? Councillor O'Brien. Seconded Councillor Leary. B, quarterly chairperson's report of strategic policy committee meetings. Proposed? I propose that. Seconded Councillor Boland. C. Report of O&P and F community meeting held on Monday the 6th of June 2026. Proposed. I propose it. Councillor Newman seconded. Thank you. D. Report of Balbriggan Rushlow Swords Services B meeting held on Thursday the 11th of June 2026. Proposer. I propose. And seconded Councillor Boland. Item number 14, financial matters. Oliver's taken this. Thank you.
Thanks, Mayor. So I just need your approval this evening in relation to sanction for borrowing for the swimming pool in Balbriggan. The capacity for the borrowings has been incorporated in the 2026 budget. The approval of borrowings is a reserve function for yourselves, and then does require departmental sanction. So once you approve it here tonight, I'll engage with the department to move it through their processes also. The planning for the project was approved by yourselves at the May meeting, and I went through the process in relation to the borrowing approval at the OPNF. So it's really just to approve the report and the resolution in the report to authorise the raising of funding of 12 million for the Balbriggan swimming pool.
So we need a proposer and a seconder, and then we have to read the resolution into the record. So we have a proposer. Proposed Councillor Maguire, seconded Councillor O'Leary. So the approval will be subject to the sanction of the Minister of Housing and Local Government. Yes?
I have my light on to speak.
Oh, sorry. It's not coming up on my system. That's one of the glitches, so apologies. Councillor Humphreys.
I just have a couple of questions, and also to inform the Mayor that I submitted a motion from the floor under this headed item that was sent to corporate and to your mail account as Mayor. Is the drawdown of the funding won't happen until obviously full plan permission and the beginning of construction, or would some of the funding be used for preliminary works, and then I'd waiting on a ruling from the Mayor on my motion?
So what's before you this evening is to receive your sanction, and then I'll engage with the department in order to work through their processes as well, and then we'll draw down the funding as needed as the project progresses.
Councillor Humphreys, I haven't cited your motion, but I'll sort that out now. Just give me 2 minutes. Councillor Humphreys, do you want to read the motion? Yeah, please. We have a technical issue, so it's just to advise the members of the motion detail. Thanks. There we are.
That this Council requests the Chief Executive to ensure that any proposed governance, management or operational structure for the future of a future municipal swimming pool of Fingal, including any recommendation regarding direct council management, external management or partnership arrangements, be presented to the full Council for consideration and approval before any final decision being made.
Okay, do you want to propose that? And
It's not on the agenda. What's on the agenda is borrowing to build the building. This doesn't seem to be on the agenda.
Councillor Humphreys, I'm just taking advice on this. Just bear with me, thank you. Okay, Councillor Humphreys, I have taken advice on this and I'm deeming it out of order. And if you want to discuss it with the management or myself later, you're welcome to. And the Mayor's word is final. Thank you. I'm now returning to the resolution, so I need to read the resolution into the record. What's your point of order?
You have to give a rationale, at least to the member, regards to why it's out of order. You can say Mayor's words final, that's fine, but he is entitled to an actual rationale for it being ruled out of order, not just I spoke to management.
Advice have been given it's out of order because
Advice in relation to.
Excuse me, don't
you
speak.
have to.
When I'm speaking, please, member.
Standing
let me
Order
speak.
79 says he has to be given a
When I'm speaking, I would prefer you to let me speak, and then I will. The rationale is that the motion is not referencing the drawdown of a loan. So that's the rationale. Thank you. And I'll discuss it with Councillor Humphreys later. I'm going to read the resolution into the record. It is hereby resolved that a loan in the sum of 12 million be raised for the purpose of funding the delivery of a swimming pool in Balbriggan pursuant to the provisions of Section 106 of the Local Government Act 2001. Agreed? Thank you. We have, yeah. Item number 15, proposed disposal of properties. A, proposed disposal of land at Clonswood, Ballybockle, County Dublin to Mr Richard Rogers, Grange, Old Town, County Dublin, and Mr George Rogers, Amberley House, Murrah, Old Town, County Dublin. Can I have a proposer? Proposed, Colin Boland. Seconder, Councillor Gearan. Agreed? Number 16, declaration of roads, no business. Number 17, report pursuant to Part 11 of the Planning Development Act 2000 as amended, and Part 8 of the Local Government Planning and Development Regulations 2001 as amended, proposed place-based development at Lough, County Dublin. I need a proposer and seconder for this. Proposed Councillor Leary, and I'll second it. Item number 18. Increase the text size? Yeah. Item number 18. Item number 17, we've agreed that. Councillor Leary agreed. Is the room agreed? Yes. Yeah. Councillor Ryan?
In relation to these matters, Part 11, this is the end of a statutory process, and the least we can expect as members is to see a presentation on it. It's not acceptable as far as I'm concerned just to let's move on and go to number 18. We need to see a presentation if we're to be serious about being involved in a statutory process.
If the members want the presentation, I've seen the presentation. I think members have seen the presentation, but you're quite welcome to see it if the room wants to see it. Have you not? Okay, right. Can we have the presentation, please? Thank you.
Hello members, yes. So this is the Chief Executive's report regarding the proposed place-based development at Lough, County Dublin. So the presentation will take you through what is proposed, the findings of the planner's report, an overview of the public consultation, and we'll finish with a recommendation to the members. So a gap in local access to play for Lough informed the site selection in this case. This was as a result of a play audit undertaken as an action of the play policy. So the site was purchased from JKP Nursing Homes in 2025 last year. Just over 1,000 square metres of land was purchased. This is the site location on the satellite image. It just depicts where the play space is proposed to be situated in relation to the homes, the road, and Bartra Nursing Home. So this is how the proposals are aligned with our play policy in terms of accessibility within 1,000 metres to homes, located near a pedestrian route, well-drained and flat site, situated at least 25 metres from the nearest home, and passive observation opportunities are apparent. The proposals themselves are for a local equipped area for play consisting of approximately 1,000 square metres of play activity zone, 15 pieces of play equipment, water permeable safety surfacing and pathways, bicycle parking, landscaping, one accessible car parking space, and a new section of pathway with a pedestrian crossing. That's the site layout there on plan relative to its surroundings, and that's a more detailed look. So you can see the central area for sand play, the circular area to reflect so the sand is to reflect the coastal location. There's a bridge or a pier to a central island. This central sand area is enclosed by interconnected circles of hedging. And then outside of the circles is, on the left-hand side, is a zone aimed at toddlers and younger kids. And the zone to the right-hand side is for older kids up to 12 years of age. And also on the plan is, you can see the accessible parking space and pedestrian crossing and pathway. So the next number of slides are CGI representation of our proposals. So this will hopefully bring the plans to life. So the interconnected circular design with the hedging is inspired by the nearby Martello Tower, giving the space a strong sense of place and identity. And just different viewpoints from different angles. Moving on, and just that's the last of them, just with a closer look from that viewpoint. And elevations. So these are the cross sections on this slide showing different levels. The change in levels, along with the hedging, serve in part to shelter the space, being in a little bit of an exposed location, as well as minimising the visual impact and integrating nicely into the landscape setting. So that's a ground view from Featherbed Lane, demonstrating the minimum visual impact, and that's looking toward the sea eastwards with a similar minimum impact visually.
Yes, Councillor Kieran.
I have a conflict with this, so I'm declaring that conflict.
Thanks, Councillor.
I didn't realise we were discussing a proposal which included water filling stations, and I would have a conflict there.
Thanks, Councillor, for that declaration. Thank you very much.
According to the planning report, the proposed play space development at Lochshinny is in accordance with the relevant land use zoning objectives and policies of the County Development Plan, and are considered to accord with the proper planning and sustainable development of the area. The proposals went on public display from the 15th of April to the 27th of May. That's a total of 6 weeks. 5 submissions were received over that period. The 5 submissions were categorised into 3 themes, which I'll go over now in the next 3 slides. So theme 1 related to road safety and accessibility. Concerns were voiced that high volumes of traffic exist along the adjoining road. There were requests for further investigations to be conducted relative to, in the context of road safety. Concerns also requested if it is safe for pedestrian access, and there were calls for additional traffic calming measures such as controlled pedestrian crossing, traffic lights, or similar type of measures. So in response, the site was assessed in combination with proposals by the relevant transportation and traffic sections, with the consensus that the uncontrolled pedestrian crossing along with signage is adequate on a road with a speed of 50 kilometres an hour. The section of road also has public lighting and visibility for both motorists and pedestrians. Having said this, the situation will be kept under review going forward. Theme 2 was the location, suitability and demand for play facilities. So observations stated that it is more appropriate to locate a play space more centrally within the village and that there is a limited number of children in the immediate vicinity. So comments also stated that the location is not suitable due to the proximity of the road. In response, the available lands are limited, which is partly why we acquired this site in the first instance. The proposed play space is in accordance with the play policy. It is within 1,000 metres to the homes of children, and as well as this, the National School is located about 500 metres away. And also the playground is set back from the road and further separated by bollards and fencing and hedging. And the final theme is parking. 2 submissions raise concerns that a single accessible parking space is not adequate. So again, in response, the play policy is our intention to create localised play opportunities for Lough Shinny, therefore negating the need to drive while also promoting access to play via active travel. And we note there is also a bus stop located nearby at Lough Shinny Cross, and it is possible for pick-up and drop-off to occur at the accessible parking space if it is not occupied. So again, the proposals are considered to accord with the proper planning and sustainable development of the area, and it is recommended that the council approve the play space for Lough Shinny as proposed. That's it. Thanks for your attention.
Councillor Donnelly.
Just one quick question. Thanks very much for the presentation. The hedging that surrounds the play area, will that be kept low? Yeah, thanks.
Councillor O'Brien.
Sorry, Mayor, and just to get my bearings here, could we see an overhead shot of the aerial view from the maps? Is that on the main road that travels towards Rush? And the reason I ask that is no. Okay, that's fine. So that was just in relation to the road safety matter. Okay, thanks very much.
Okay, so we have no more speakers on this. I just need the room to agree it. Have we agreed? Thank you very much. Item number 18, draft antisocial behaviour strategy. And we need a proposer and seconder for this, and we also have a presentation if the members want the presentation. Proposed, Councillor Leary. Seconded, Jack Kelly. Yeah, no, we'll have the presentation.
Thank you, Mayor. So this is the Housing Antisocial Behaviour Strategy and Policy, and I'd like to welcome Liam Burke and John Kernan to present the strategy to you. We've presented it to the SPC. The strategy provides the context for which Liam and John's teams work in terms of dealing with this extremely challenging area that we find in Fingal housing in terms of antisocial behaviour. It's timely that the strategy is updated at this time. There's, as John will set out, there's kind of slightly different activities and behaviours that we need to address, which wouldn't have been apparent 10 years ago when the original strategy was put in place. So just like to acknowledge the work that Liam, John, Patricia O'Keefe and John's team has done in bringing this all together, and the team there. This for me would be one of the most, if not the most challenging area that staff in Fingal County Council have to operate in, cutting across criminality, antisocial behaviour, family issues, down to kind of more mundane, I suppose, things like noise complaints and neighbour issues. So I suppose what we would ask is that you support us in the strategy today, and that will allow Liam and Joan and the team then to ensure that we continue to have a high level of good and proper estate management across our increasing housing stock across the county. Thanks.
Okay, good afternoon, members. I'll just run through this slideshow now. So, as Paul mentioned there, the landscape of housing has changed over the last decade. So this strategy provides a more modern framework to meet the challenges of today regarding ASB, and it's incorporated any new legislation since the last strategy. So Section 35 of the Housing Miscellaneous Provision Act 2009 mandates local authorities to develop and implement antisocial behaviour strategies, and the adoption of the strategy is a reserved function of the elected members. So the vision for communities. Fingal County Council is committed to working with tenants and other statutory agencies to create resilient, inclusive communities. So the objectives of the strategy is, first of all, prevention of ASB. So through early intervention, it'll prevent escalation of ASB, through tenant induction courses and tenancy management, managing ASB. We want to have clear procedures in place for responding to ASB complaints, enforcement and accountability of tenancy agreements. Sometimes there's limited accountability from tenants. Partnership and collaboration with relevant stakeholders and partners such as Garda Síochána, Kana and HSE. So we have good relationships there, but we want to keep building on them all the time. So support and resolution for our tenants. We provide support to the tenants through our social workers, tenancy sustainment, and resolution, I suppose, is the overall objective. This is just a few examples of antisocial behaviour. It can go from anything minor to serious. So drug-related activity, we've seen an increase in that, and drug debt intimidation over the last decade. Persistent noise, nuisance, intimidation, threats, harassment, property damage, vandalism, neighbour and tenant disputes, hate incidents and illegal dumping. So why manage ASB? So the council, we manage approximately 7,400 council tenancies across a wide range of diverse communities, and ASB can impact the quality of life of residents and local communities. It can cause fear, stress, insecurity, and it can just disrupt daily lives of residents. So from the point of view of a tenancy, it can affect tenancies, transfer requests, tenancy alerts and warnings can be issued. We can apply for exclusion orders, repossession orders, and long-term ability to purchase through the tenant purchase scheme. So key challenges for us in the ASB unit would be tenant responsibility and accountability. Not all tenants take accountability for their actions. Like it's a minority that we're dealing with regards to ASB, so that is a positive. Lack of engagement and contact. In some instances, people, they might have a fear of making a complaint in case their neighbour knows they complained against them, but everything is received in confidence and is confidential. So again, evidence gathering, this is vital. We need facts, we need information in order to investigate a complaint. And again, sometimes people don't want to come across with that information to us. So the legal process can be timely. Again, it takes the time to get to court. We run into adjournments, we do run into cases where there's lack of evidence, complex household challenges. Again, that has changed over the last 10 years or so. The staff are dealing with more complex cases such as domestic abuse, mental health, drug issues, in some instances aggressive behaviour. So that leads on to staff safety and training. Our main focus is to equip our staff with the skills to deal with these cases, and HR always provide training for the staff. Managing repeat offenders, that can be tricky. So that comes down to a lot of monitoring by our staff and our housing inspectors that's on the ground. The housing inspectors play a huge role in managing ASB. In some cases, they're the first people that know about what's going on and feed it back into the team. So the planned actions, the next steps. So we're currently reviewing the strategy. It's taken us a long time to get today to where we are. A lot of work and effort has gone into the team in the ASB unit to get here. So as Paul said, it was approved by the Housing SPC, and we're hoping today that it's approved here. So the next stage then would be to go to print, translate it into Irish, circulate it out to the tenants, and review the tenancy handbook. And also, we're going to come up with a short information leaflet that we'll distribute it out to the tenancies as well. We want to continue to build on our collaboration and partnership with our stakeholders, again in Garda Síochána, HSC, TUSA, community groups, etc. And again, staff training remains a priority. We want to equip our staff with skills to manage these cases and also support the well-being and confidence of our staff. We're also in the development of an online digital reporting tool at the moment. So again, that's going to improve how somebody can report an incident of ASB and ensure confidentiality for people who want to submit complaints. So I suppose, how do we know we're delivering? So we want faster resolution to cases. We want more early intervention to prevent escalation. In cases where there is no resolution, we want to increase cases referred for legal action. Again, building staff skills and resilience through training. And once again, we want to build and improve and our partnership and collaboration with all our stakeholders. So the CE recommends the following resolution for adoption. Fingal County Council adopt a draft antisocial behaviour strategy and policy. And if you have any questions from the members. Thank you.
Councillor Kieran.
Yeah, I just want to thank you first for the presentation and to thank all that your team do. I mean, we all go to flavours and we can all go to the opening of centres and that, but we don't all really see what a lot of us have experienced, how you get involved and you help solve problems for people and how you do take risks yourselves. And that's not seen, as I say, it's not something that we can all see on a day-to-day basis, but we are aware of it. And I'd just like to thank your section for the sensitive approach you do take in one or two of the cases that I've been involved in. And I just hope that you're getting the sufficient training and support from management that you deserve. Thank you.
Councillor Brendan Ryan.
Thank you, Mayor. Just a brief couple of words as Chair of the SPC. An update on the strategy was presented to us on the 22nd of June. Thorough discussion took place with some clarification being sought by members. No real dissenting voices, as I recall at the meeting, and following discussion, the presentation was noted. Members of the SPC were invited to provide feedback on the draft strategy by the following Friday directly to Liam or Joan, should anything else occur, to anyone, or if any further clarification was required. I don't believe any further comments were received. As Chair of the Housing SPC, I'm happy to support the adoption of the strategy today, but it's up to the members of full council for decision. Thank you.
Thanks, Councillor Ryan. Councillor Cathal Boland.
Thank you, Mayor. I was caught by the phrase that the next step would be to go to print after we translate it into Irish. And I wonder how many languages are used amongst our tenants and how many of them have not got fluency in either English or Irish, and how we cope with that, and is there a mechanism to ensure that they fully understand what the document is actually saying. Thank you.
Councillor Luke Corkery.
Thank you for this, and thanks to the housing team for all the work that you do. I just wonder, when a report is filed, I wonder if you could give me a step-by-step process of what actually happens from then on. And I suppose, is there any case in which a tenant might be moved in the case of, severe antisocial behaviour? I welcome the new online tool, obviously, to encourage people who might be, otherwise intimidated by threats. I just wonder when that might be, operational. Thank you.
Councillor John Burchell.
Thanks to the team for the work. Very difficult area, as was outlined. Tricky situations. In many cases, sometimes you've got, individuals engaged in antisocial behaviour, criminal activity, and the consequences of that come back on innocent family members. And, very difficult to address situations like that. So my question is, in relation to the exclusion orders, where an individual is excluded from an address or possibly an estate, does the council find the Gardaí enforce that, efficiently, and is it an effective means to kind of separate, individuals engaged in antisocial behaviour from others who may be innocent in the circumstances?
Councillor Cahill, hi.
Thanks for Thanks for the presentation, and I heard it obviously as well at the Housing SBC, and this is a very tough area. I suppose my questions were answered at the Housing SBC, so I didn't send in any extra comments. But just to make those general comments here today as well, I suppose, like, we are contacted every week, every day by really decent, hard-working people who are on the housing list, and people who've never put a foot wrong, have never come in contact with the Gardaí. And then we've also been made aware of cases of council tenants, our tenants, who are terrorising people, terrorising communities, terrorising their whole road, a nightmare to live beside. And kind of similar to what Councillor Corkery said, it's not always clear exactly what has to happen for someone to get evicted. But I asked about staff being threatened. Like, in my opinion, if you threaten council staff, you should be evicted. And I know there's legislation there, and we have to, follow all that. But I think there should be more of a zero tolerance approach. And then background checks are done, which was said at the housing SPC. But ultimately, it can't exclude you from the housing list. And some people who've committed, terrible crimes, and most people wouldn't want to live next door to it. But I suppose that's the nature of the beast. But yeah, it is frustrating, and I know your hands are tied to a certain extent. But my sympathy is with the people who are living beside very, hard to live with people who are making their lives miserable. And that's the people that I want to support, and all the genuine, hard-working, decent people who are on the housing list who are waiting for years and years, when there's other people who have been given a house and probably don't deserve it in the terms of how they're acting and the antisocial behaviour, or even criminal activity. So yeah, I just want to make them comments. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Councillor James Humphreys.
Thank you, and thank you for the presentation and all the work that's gone into the strategy. I just have a couple of questions, and maybe if you can expand on them further. Approved housing bodies and the creation of an equitable system that are somehow linked. Is there any reason why we can't force the approval housing bodies to follow the same strategy that we have? Would that require a change in legislation, or is there a different mechanism? Because I know there is a mechanism about placing of a tenant and funding streams, so I wonder if we can leverage that for a coordination of procedures and a strategy. The other question I have is around freedom of information and protecting our tenants. I know some media outlets like to do league tables of reported complaints rather than the outcomes of an investigation. Is there mechanisms in there to prevent the stigmatisation of our tenants in the media on how we're collecting and correlating the data? And then my final question is, as a result of, I think it was Fingal County Council's getting sued over a dog bite within the tenant's house, has the language in this been run by a solicitor that we're not opening ourselves up to any liability in that regard?
Councillor Karina Johnson.
Thanks, Mayor. I think Councillor Humphreys has asked the question I was going to ask. But firstly, just thanks, Joan, for the presentation. Thanks to yourself and Liam for all the work that you do. I suppose my question is in relation to approved housing bodies as well, and the managing of ASB by the housing associations, and what, I suppose, in terms of the governance of that, how is that governed by yourselves? Are they separate? Is it totally separate to the council? Because, look, I suppose we're seeing more and more housing stock being managed by housing associations, and I suppose, look, I'm receiving an awful lot of representations in my own area in relation to antisocial behaviour, and it's all, with housing associations, and it's difficult. As public representatives, I don't personally, none of us, I think I speak for most people here, we don't have direct contacts with housing associations as we might have with yourselves in relation to reporting antisocial behaviour. That is a very big issue. So I'm wondering, is that something that can be addressed in terms of the communication piece? Thank you.
Councillor Aoibhinn Tormey.
Thank you very much for the presentation and for all of the work that you do. I know you both have been there for a long time, and this strategy definitely comes from the experience of the staff and what's needed. And you're obviously just acting in the best interest in what you're putting together in that strategy to be able to deliver the best possible service. And I also hope as well that you do get enough support, because it is a really, really, really challenging department to have to work in. Just in relation to the communication piece, obviously, some people may have some literacy difficulties. So I just wonder, do we put together a short video for maybe people who can't read? Or what is the approach that we're taking for those people, just to make sure that we are communicating across the board? Thank you.
Councillor John Walsh.
Thanks, Mayor, and thanks very much for the presentation. I just want to acknowledge, the really good work done by the Housing Department, and just have personal experience of working with the state management in dealing with very difficult issues with tenancies. And in fairness, I think you do a very professional and you do the job in a very professional and compassionate way. I have two questions really. One touches on a question raised by a couple of other councillors about excluding orders. I'm just interested to know, is the excluding order, is that intended for use against another individual in the house, or against, or in relation to a tenant? And would you have, I suppose, any information on to what extent excluding orders are used? Like how many excluding orders would be brought forward, say, on average by the council in a year? The other point, I suppose, relates to approved housing bodies, similar to the one raised by Councillor Johnston. I think certainly a lot of the concerns I've had in relation to antisocial behaviour, or even antisocial behaviour bordering on criminality, come from a minority of tenants who are housed by approved housing bodies, and often the AHBs find it very challenging to deal with that antisocial behaviour. So I'm just kind of wondering what kind of powers or resources are available to the council in supporting AHBs, and perhaps also in prompting them to address antisocial behaviour as effectively as possible. Thanks.
Councillor Dean Mulligan.
Thanks, Mayor, and thank you very much for the presentation and for the report. It's a very good policy, and it's very thorough, and I just want to thank the team for all the work that they do, because they're faced with a lot of difficult situations and a lot of varying presenting challenges. I suppose it was alluded to by other councillors, but the biggest issue we find is the approved housing bodies and their ability to cope with the issues brought to them, and then sometimes they want to go through the RTB, but they're looking for circumstantial or evidence, and even the evidence that we'd have to give estate management, it's all circumstantial, and people come forward with examples, and maybe they are the only witness to a certain incident, and all of a sudden, as a result of forthcoming with examples of antisocial behaviour, they feel like they have, or there are instances where residents have been threatened by people, because as a result of coming forward with evidence that is then used by, I can't really say the council, but used by approved housing bodies. How do we marry the difficulty for residents who are genuinely distressed in their estates to actually come forward with evidence that's not circumstantial? Because unless you have Ring doorbell footage or whatever the case may be, everything is one person's account against another, and trying to ascertain that evidence and amalgamate it into something that's able to be validated and then not result in someone being targeted for coming forward with a distressing message and then trying to corroborate whether two sides of a very different story. The point I'm trying to make is that I've only ever witnessed one occasion of a transfer, and if we transfer tenants or a victim, we're not a victim into homelessness. We tend to move them on to another area, and the point is, how does the policy allow us to put people in appropriate placements if they're moving them from one area to another? It's not really broached because we don't evict people into homelessness. Thank you.
Councillor Darren Jack Kelly.
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you for the presentation from Joan and to Liam. I will say that it's a hugely difficult job you guys have in housing. I don't envy you at all. The question, just have a couple of questions. In regards to the housing, what percentage of the 7,400 houses would have antisocial behaviour? If you have some rough idea of that. And the other thing is, I'd like to ask you is, have you researched any other councils in Europe, outside Europe, like Australia, America, how they would deal with antisocial behaviour in their countries? That's really it, and thanks for that.
Councillor John Smith.
Thank you. I'll be brief because I see you have a list as long as your arm there, questions from people. I recognise how difficult it must be to write a policy like this. If you're too vague, no one knows where they stand. If you're too strict, there's no area there for the grey and the nuances. I just wondered, could you talk us through a scenario where if significant damage was caused to a council property by a tenant, potentially over a long period of time, where it's down to like emotional dysregulation from having mental health condition or disability, how does that face up in this policy? How would that be worked through so that it would be fair to the individual, acknowledging where they are at in that moment in time? Thank you.
Councillor Patrick Quinlan.
Thanks, Chair. Thank you very much for the presentation. This is very much in my humble opinion, Fingal can only do so much when it comes to antisocial behaviour. Antisocial behaviour in and of itself can range from the low end, like graffiti and stuff like that, all the way up to the very, very serious end, and people being killed and shootings and all this kind of stuff. I think it's just, like we always hear, it's systemic, it's systemic, it's systemic. My humble opinion is that the boot of the state should come down on scumbags who are absolutely terrorising communities, and that's my opinion on that. But that's outside the Fingal County Council remit, so I won't harp on about that. Just out of the 7,400 tenancies, similar to Councillor Kelly here beside me, and how many of them have we got where there's actual instances of antisocial behaviour? But then on the actual antisocial behaviour itself, how many reports overall did Fingal County Council have last year, and is itemised that based on the actual type of antisocial behaviour as well? And just because it was mentioned, the tenant purchase scheme being affected by antisocial behaviour, how many tenant purchases actually happened last year?
Thanks. And Councillor Mary McCamley.
Thank you. I'm not actually going to ask a question. I'm just going to say thanks to Joan and Liam for all the work that they put in the strategy. I was reading it there this morning, and it's a really, really good strategy, and I know a lot of work went on behind the scenes. So I'd just like to say thanks. No questions.
Thanks, Councillor McCamley. So it's now over to Joan and Liam. Banked a few questions there.
So just on Councillor Boland's comment, well, we have to translate it into Irish, so that'll be the first language we will translate it into. We can look at translating it into other languages, that's no problem. Councillor Corkery, so let me see. You asked about the process of dealing with complaints. It differs, it depends on the complaint. You could have a minor complaint that can be resolved quicker than others. Then you could have others that take longer, that go through the whole process. So it all depends on the type of complaint it is. But the process is set out in the strategy. I think it's page 20, so you can see step by step how we deal with the complaints. So the online tool for reporting complaints. So I've no date at the moment, so I can come back to you on that when we know. So staff being threatened. I'm glad to say it doesn't happen on a regular basis. It's a rare occurrence, and we do expect, like, we treat all our tenants with respect and courtesy, and we do expect that in return for staff. But lucky enough, we don't have it happening on a regular basis. If it did, we would deal with it. The tenants will be brought in straight away, and the appropriate warnings or whatever will be given out to them. Regard to approved housing bodies, so as part of the research into this strategy, we did look at the ASB policies of AHBs, a number of AHBs, other local authorities in Ireland and Northern Ireland, and from reviewing the policies, we're confident that they have sufficient policies and procedures in place to deal with investigating ASB, enforcement, when it comes to ASB. We have got a good working relationship with the AHBs, and not just at the ASB stage, but from the allocation of a property when we're nominating to AHBs. So we're open to working with them. We've no problem meeting with them regarding ASB. When needs be, we can do that. What else? So regards to literacy difficulties, yeah, we did discuss this, and at the tenant induction courses, we're looking at developing some kind of a video, and we can look into that down to doing it for the website down the road. We can look into that. It's a good idea, and I acknowledge that not all people, you know, can read and write. That's no problem. We can look into that. Councillor Mulligan. Yeah, so people coming forward with evidence, it can be very difficult, and I do acknowledge that people, when they give reports in, they are in fear that it's not confidential. It is confidential. I can reassure you it's confidential. And when it comes to anybody submitting FOIs or DSARs, you know, we don't release third-party information. It's all strictly confidential, and we do that in line with the FOI Act and the exemptions under that Act. Councillor Quinlan, Councillor Jack Kelly, you asked for a percentage of the total tenancies. Like, I don't have the percentage here today, but I can tell you of the 7,500 tenancies, it's the minority that we're dealing with here. It'd be a few hundred, but like, I can get you that, and I can back you on that. The tenant purchase scheme, like, I wouldn't have the stats on how many tenants purchased their home under the tenant purchase scheme for 2025, but I can get you that as well. I'm sure it's in the CE report every month. And then regarding the stats, the ASB team, we put stats into the CE report every month, breaking down tenancy warnings, tenancy alerts, interviews, housing inspections, and so on. So yeah, so that's all in the report there. Liam, you might want to come in if I missed anything.
There, John. Give you a break. Let's just run back through the notes I took there. Councillor Corkery, sometimes we move tenants in different situations. That can happen. That's part of a strategy. If it comes to that and dealing with an issue, it might be part of a solution. Councillor Burchell, you asked about exclusion orders. The parent or the local authority can take them out. We can take them out. We have done that. We work with Garda Síochána to make sure that they're enforced properly. So basically, the exclusion order would be used as a tool, generally to take somebody out of a home, a family member who might be causing a problem for that family. So to support the family, we would use the exclusion order tool to support the tenancy and make sure that the actual family tenancy might sustain itself there without this one individual being part of it. Councillor Haughey, we tease out a lot of your issues at the SPC. Tenants are rising a road. Well, we can act on that. So that's our job. That's what we do. So we do that with the other statutory partners, with the HSE, with Garda Síochána. So it can be the case that there may be mental health or other issues there. So we will deal with that. We just need to get the information, and we will move on that. Everything we do is grounded, I suppose it's important to point out. Everything we do is grounded in legislation. So we incrementally work through a process, initially trying to support a tenancy, and thereafter, if we have to carry out intervention, well then that's what we'll do. So we're equally sympathetic to people who live on the street, so we will try to work with them to protect them and make sure they get heard and they get looked after. FOI in protecting tenants, there's a process under the Act to deal with that, to make sure that people who make complaints to us are secure in the process and that it's confidential. The AHB issues come up from a few councillors. So previously we've held workshops with the approved housing bodies. We can do that again. There's no issue doing that. So basically, they came online and met some of yourselves, and they explained how they deal with bad behaviour. We make the nomination to them, generally speaking. Then the management of their stock is their own responsibility. But they have all of the functions and availability to contact and Garda Síochána and work through the various issues that they might be presented with. So they have a lot of responsibilities and power to deal with that. But again, if it's something that you feel is useful, we can look into getting that off the ground again and meet them and let them tell you how they carry on their business, because there is a lot of stock now coming in through the approved housing body sector. Councillor Tormey, yes, we're looking at videos as part of the tenancy induction to kind of make it easier to communicate with people. So that's part of an improvement process that we're engaged on at the minute. Councillor Walsh, I think we've dealt with yours there on the AHBs as well, and the excluding orders. So excluding orders, there aren't that many, but it's a tool we use. So it's something we can do and it's provided for in legislation. Councillor Smith, damage by a tenant to a property, well, that can happen. Obviously, we'll react to that. Sometimes that tenant needs support, might be mental health issues there, might need help, and we'll look to provide that for them. If it goes beyond that, then we'll deal with that as, with the legislation that we have to deal with bad behaviour generally. So everything we do is grounded in legislation. As I said, it's all set out in the strategy. I think we have covered everything off there. I know people get frustrated sometimes and feel that we should do more faster, but we move along with the legislation. So basically we work with the statutory colleagues and we work to deal with yourselves and with tenants insofar as we can, grounded through the legislation to make sure that we get what we do, that we get it right. Build up our records, and then can take a while, I suppose, from time to time. People might get frustrated, but we generally get over the line in the end. I think that's pretty much everything. Unless there's something I missed there.
Councillor Jack Kelly, do you want to come back in?
Thanks, Mayor. Just guys, I think you probably just missed one there, but the question I had was regarding research for other councils
Oh yeah, sorry, I missed, yeah. So
in
research
UK or elsewhere around the world.
Generally we do researches nationally and internationally, but our legislation is what we use. So the Irish legislation is what we're bound to deal with. So the strategy is based on the legislation that we have through the Housing Acts to deal with bad behaviour. So us looking at situations around Europe and other areas, ideas might seem useful. But we've come back to our own legislation enacted by Dáil Éireann to ground whatever action we might take. All good?
Councillor James Humphreys, do you want to come back in?
Just briefly, that the language was looked over by in-house counsellor or solicitor, particularly in and around dogs, in light of what happened out in Kildare last year and their settlement.
So we've gone through all of this microscopically with our legal advisors. So anything we do around data is anonymised, so we would make sure that nothing would be released to identify individuals. Was that your question?
No, it was the liability with dogs in households.
Have you right? So basically. Yeah, the strategy references restricted dog breeds. John referenced earlier, we're also looking at our tenancy agreement to amend that to deal with issues around restricted breeds under the Control of Dogs regulations. So that's a job in hand for us. Yeah.
Thanks very much, everyone. Before we adopt, I have to read a resolution. Sorry, Councillor Quinlan.
Just the overall amount of social behaviour incidents that you have recorded for yourselves for 2025, the itemisation of the categorisation, rather should I say, of each one, would I be able to get that information off sometime near in the future?
Yeah. So basically, that's all set out there. So we've a lot of information around that. Yeah, no problem. Giving you that.
Okay, we have a proposal and seconder. I just have to read a resolution before we adopt it and agree it. So the resolution reads: the Council resolves to adopt the antisocial behaviour strategy and policy as presented to the Council on the 6th of July 2026. Agreed? Agreed. Thank you very much, and thanks Joan and Liam. Item number 19, transient visitor levy. I think John's going to give us an update on that. Thank you.
Yeah, so thanks, Mayor. Members will remember last month we had a nomination process for two members to to be nominated to participate in a working group that Dublin City Council are proposing around this transient visitor levy. It's been knocking around in discussion here for quite some time. What the members agreed last month was that while they identified the two people that would be nominated, that they wanted you as members wanted to have a broader discussion on it before you decided whether those two nominated people would actually go to participate. In the intervening period, there was a discussion at the Economic SPC, and coming out of that, the meeting's administrator wrote to Dublin City Council asking was there scope for discussion around the terms of reference which had been set out and agreed by Dublin City Council. We circulated those terms of reference a number of weeks ago, and on Friday I circulated you with the response that we got from the City Council, which basically indicated that they were the working group in its current form was anxious to get on with the business and gave no indication that they were prepared to have a discussion around the terms of reference as set, but that Fingal were an important invitation and that the ability to participate would remain open to Fingal at any time. So it's over to the members really whether you want to proceed with the nomination and allow the two nominees to go ahead and participate, or how you want to approach this.
Thanks, John. So it's open to the floor, and maybe the two nominees would like to speak first. They've been elected to attend the meeting, and then we can decide if we're going to participate. I won't make an opinion on it. I'll leave it to the room to make that decision. Councillor O'Leary.
Notwithstanding some of the dissatisfaction with the terms of reference set out by Dublin City Council, I think we should proceed to engage in the process and get more information and get reports and come back here to this council with suggestions, options, whatever. Right now we've zero information except whatever you read in the newspaper. So in my opinion, up to the councillors here, I think we should proceed.
Thanks, Councillor O'Leary. Councillor Humphreys.
From speaking to some of the members in the working group over the weekend and this morning, they didn't seem to have an issue with changing the terms of references. Certainly in some of the issues that I'd be most concerned about is reporting back to Fingal's SPC and reporting back to our council here, and that each council would have their own recommendation, that this working group isn't a unifying voice. It is literally just a working group to collate, compile data and information, have a good discussion of what this levy will mean for Fingal, what this levy will mean for Dublin. Like the debate has moved on since I was pushing this 2 years ago. The the Minister for Finance, the Taoiseach and Minister for Finance now, and the Minister for Local Government have all gone on record supporting this. There's legislation in the Shannon about it. The question really becomes, is this going to be the 2027 budget or the 2028 budget that this is going to be implemented in? So we need to be in the discussion because firstly and foremostly, this needs to be additional funding, not replacing already sources of funding from central government. So we need to be involved in the conversation. I would certainly, irregardless of what the terms of reference would say, I would certainly be continuing to inform the SPC and Council of what is being discussed.
Thanks, Councillor Humphreys. Councillor Avian Tormey.
Thank you. I also support sending our 2 representatives to engage in those discussions. I think to go in quite open to it, and I think they should then bring back the proposal to us as councillors, and that we as Fingal think, say if we agree with it or not, and acting in the best interests of the residents and businesses of Fingal. And also it might be an opportunity as well to communicate to Dublin City Council maybe some of the thoughts that some of the residents of Fingal may have in terms of how they are maintaining things within the city centre and key tourist sites within there. But I think absolutely send people and bring it back. Thank you.
Thanks. Councillor Gearan.
I have to say I wouldn't agree with my colleagues. I found the response from Dublin City quite dismissive. I didn't think that they were prepared to accommodate, and they actually said, if you don't like it, we can go ahead without you, if that's my right interpretation. And to me, that doesn't augur very well for conducive negotiations, and that would be to the benefit of Fingal. However, that's just my view. I think we've been presented with a fait accompli. We went back and asked them to consider the position, and they wrote back and told us no.
Councillor John Walsh.
Yeah, thanks. Thanks, Mayor. No, I agree with a number of colleagues that we should participate and understand Councillor Gearan's concerns. It's a fairly straightforward response from Dublin City Council. But I think it's important that our perspectives within Fingal are heard within the working group. It seems the working group will go ahead quite quickly. And I'd just be concerned that we wouldn't be left outside it, and that if a working group was to make recommendations or to present recommendations to the Minister or to Government, that Fingal's perspectives should be included in that. And of course, we may have different perspectives on it.
Thank you. Councillor Brian McDonough.
Yeah, I think absolutely we should participate in the working group. We've the second weakest local democracy in the whole of Europe, and the one that's worse than us is Belarus. And at the heart of that is the lack of control really over the budget. Most of the budget is dictated to by central government and then is decided upon and spent by the executive with the oversight, democratic oversight of the councillors and a fair amount of soft power. So really control of revenue is key. In relation to, so I'm very supportive not only of attending but also of the levy itself. It's working in a large number of cities. The concern is always that it acts as something to boost prices, but we all know that prices are set in hotels by what the market will pay, what the market will bear, and tax is a tiny or small proportion of that. When there's a huge demand, the prices go up, and they've absolutely no relevance to the tax. So I think it's a great opportunity, and I think what's the key to it. And this working group is about putting pressure on structures set by central government. And I think key to this is going to be ensuring that we as a council have control, both in terms of the level that is set, but also on all of the expenditure. And you look at the huge amount of money that we invest in maintaining and supporting tourism in Howth in particular, but in up and down the coast and in other places. And I really do believe that we would be able to spend the money very effectively. So I think not only should we participate, but we should strongly advocate that we put pressure on the government to keep going with the way that they say that they're going. And I really do want to congratulate, I think James, Councillor Humphreys really deserves some credit on this, because he put it on the agenda before one of the first to be talking about it in the media and in here. So well done, James.
Thanks, Councillor Owen O'Brien.
Thank you, Mayor. Yeah, I mean, I couldn't agree more with Councillor Kieran's comments. And I'm not talking about the merits or otherwise of this proposal. There were a number of concerns, I suppose, highlighted at last month's council meeting about how this working group was being constituted. The chair preordained as the Finance Committee chair from Dublin City Council. The correspondence was duly sent, and I read the response, which was, yeah, thanks very much. We won't do anything other than proceed. So I hope our two councillors who have been nominated here are not, and I've no doubt they won't allow themselves to be put into the position of whipping boys. But I mean, this. It doesn't seem like this is starting off on the right footing to get anywhere, Mayor. And it very much is. DCC have ordained what the structure will be, and again, kudos to Councillor Humphreys. He has some verbal assurances from councillors, I don't know who, that they would be willing to look at the terms of reference, but that is not what the correspondence back from Dublin City Council says. So, and take it or leave it, Fingal.
Councillor Malachy Quinn.
Yeah, I think that we should be, our two councillors should be going forward. The inference I got from the letter was that DCC were further along the road than we were. That was the impression that I was getting from DCC, and notwithstanding that, I think that it's important that every councillor has said this, that our two councillors should be in there, and we should be putting the case for Fingal County Council and for Fingal, our tourism industry in Fingal, and we can't be playing second fiddle to a so-called larger or a larger county council, but we need to stand firm on that. Thank you.
Thanks, and Councillor Kieran Dennison.
Thanks, Mayor. I'm not sure why at all we'd be sending two people into the city to make our mind up on this. We're well able to make these sort of decisions ourselves. Dublin City have decided they're going to start a workshop on it. They obviously don't need us that badly if they're not prepared to change the terms of reference. This reminds me of the Interlocal Authority Committee on Fire and Ambulance, where they hold the chair, insist on holding the chair, have the greater number of members compared to the other local authorities. They'd had this committee going for years and then just decided that they'd bring the county councils into it, but give us only 3 or 4 members each. And, you know, we have literally no authority on this, can't ask questions, can't pass motions. I'm not sure what we're doing on it anymore. And, you know, here we have the same attitude now. Perhaps Councillor Humphreys would talk to his colleagues on the working group in there and see if they're prepared to change their mind on it, if they're so open. But I mean, I was told today that Dunleary, Rathdown are not going to be participating for the same reason that we were considering not participating, because they're not happy with the way they're being treated either. So we'd want to think long and hard about what sort of committee we're going to go in and participate in, because I think this council is well able to make decisions on these things among ourselves without having to go no-toeing to our big brothers and big sisters in the city.
Okay, thanks very much, Councillor. So we have a decision to make. In my opinion, we have 2 very capable and able councillors that have put their names forward to go into the workshop and represent Fingal County Council, notwithstanding there is a difference of opinion with some councillors, and I accept that also. So we have to make a decision. Are we going to send in the 2 representatives? I think we should. I think at least to understand what's happening at the meeting and to report back to the council. I think that both councillors have the ability to fully understand if there's nothing to see here or the business is not going to include Fingal in any meaningful way, then they can make a decision later. But it would be my opinion, and it's only my opinion as one councillor, that I think that the 2 councillors, if they're willing to attend, that we as a council should afford them that courtesy. That's just my opinion. So Councillor Dennison?
And I'd suggest that at least we wait until all the local authorities are prepared to participate, rather than going in and participating in a workshop that has only 3 of the 4 local authorities participating.
I'm going to ask John just to interject there. Thanks.
Mayor, just in response to that, our understanding at the moment is that Dún Laoghaire have not nominated anybody to this working group. If that's so, ourselves and Dún Laoghaire are the two. That will then be 3. It's a matter for members whether you want to wait for Dún Laoghaire, but I'm not too clear that Dún Laoghaire are intending to nominate. But we can check into that. I would say, Mayor, these terms of reference are set for that committee. But the 2 nominees are members of the Economic SPC. There is nothing to stop those 2 members reporting back to the SPC or to this chamber following every meeting. There's nothing to stop them recording any dissenting views as part of the process of the working group and bringing information back to the Economic SPC and to this chamber ultimately, where this council can form its own view. The structure of the working group is set out in the terms of reference, but again, nothing to stop those 2 nominees coming back to Fingal and Fingal forming its own view if it disagrees with the overall view of the working group.
I have a number of speakers coming back in, and I'm just conscious where we are in the meeting, and there's a lot of motions that we'd like to get through. So if you can keep your speaking time down to a minimum, I'd appreciate it. So, Councillor Avian Tormey.
Yeah, it was kind of actually more a point of order. Should we not put something in writing about what we are actually agreeing to? In terms of if we're saying, yeah, we will send 2 people, but we reserve the right to make our decision on the outcome of the working group in due course or something like that. Just put whatever it is that we are agreeing in writing.
Point taken. Councillor Malachy Quinn.
I wouldn't be of the opinion that we should wait and see what Dún Laoghaire are at down to. We're Fingal County Council, and we have Explore Fingal just being promoted there this weekend, the flavours of Fingal. So I think we should be standing alone and standing firm and putting our 2 councillors into the meeting and coming back and reporting back to our SPCs. Thank you.
Thanks. Councillor Jimmy Gearan.
Yeah, I think the director summed it up. I mean, what he's saying is our 2 members can go in, come back and report and talk. But we don't want observers. We want people participating in the decision-making process. And I think with the chair already been preordained, that's what we're being tonight.
Councillor Joe Newman.
I'm happy to support the 2 representatives to go in to represent this council, and I wouldn't be comfortable with them being in there to make a decision on their behalf without coming back to consult ourselves. Thank you.
Councillor John Walsh.
Thanks, Mayor. No, I just support the kind of view you outlined there a minute ago. I don't think we should allow any other council to have a veto over whether we participate or not, and that's, I think, inadvertently what we would be doing if we depend on Dún Laoghair's participation or anyone else's participation. We shouldn't do that, and I have confidence in our 2 representatives to go in and fight their corner and come back here and report.
Councillor Humphreys.
I just feel the need that needs to be reiterated that no working group has the power to make a decision. The only authority that can make a decision is this council here. And so, no, as you know full well, I'm no pushover, but the only authority that can make a decision is this chamber. No working group can do that.
Okay, so we have to make a decision. I'm in favour personally of allowing the 2 very competent councillors attend on behalf of Fingal County Council. Can we agree? Thank you very much. So moving on to the Chief Executive's report, and the Chief Executive, Anne-Marie, would like to speak first. Thank you.
Good afternoon, members. You have the report up for the first 6 months of the year, so you'll see strong work has been undertaken already for 2026. Well worth spending some time reviewing across the departments and the amount that has been achieved so far, particularly in relation to the Works programme, which I know is very important to you. Very well progressed for the year. Some more work to be done, but you'll see what has been achieved. Also, in terms of our construction programme, strong delivery on our housing projects and good progress in terms of delivery of our targets for social and affordable housing this year, which we expect to exceed. Just to remind members that the Dunsink Urban Area Plan is on display and consultation goes on till the end of July. I know the planning team have scheduled a number of consultation meetings with the various and all stakeholders, so those meetings will be happening this month, and you'll get further information from the planning team if you need to see exactly when those meetings are scheduled. In relation to Flavours of Fingal, which is our flagship event, delighted to report that it was a really good event over the weekend. Had strong public support and attendance. 58,300 visitors is the estimated number who visited the festival over the 2 days. So I think it's demonstrated that it is continuing to be a very good community festival. It was a safe and well-managed event. Traffic management worked exceptionally well. I think when that was experienced on Saturday, it led to an even greater attendance yesterday. There was minimal disruption in terms of traffic, with only 18 calls received through the dedicated traffic helpline. There were some shuttle bus services offered that was principally or only in the Portrane-Donabate area. However, very underutilised. 36 passengers on Saturday, 170 odd on Sunday. That left 1,200 seats unused, so we're going to have to just review that in terms of the future transport planning for events in future years. Traders give very positive feedback. They really felt the new layout worked well for them. They were on the route between the attractions and therefore seem to experience increased trade. So good positive feedback from them, but that will all be subject to a post-event survey to make sure that, that everything works satisfactorily for them. And obviously with every event we look to continuously improve and learn from the lessons of previous events. I do want to recognise the staff commitment and professionalism. An event of this scale is significant. We're not an MCD in terms of the Malahide concerts, for an example, but yet our own events team were able to manage an event of the same scale for each of the days. They did report to me that they were a bit upset by some of the social media commentary, and they did have to work harder to counteract it and to make sure people knew there wouldn't be gridlock, and that that a successful event management plan was in place and would be reviewed constantly throughout the weekend. Which they're good at their job, and I think the festival has proven that this weekend, and I just want to congratulate them for the work that they did. Happy to take any questions on the Chief Executive's report, and the team are all here to answer your questions.
Thanks very much, Anne-Marie. Councillor Avian Tormey.
Thanks very much for the report, and just to congratulate the staff on the work for Flavours and then also just in general. My question just is in relation to the litter fines and graffiti. Last month we approved a motion and to address graffiti along the rail lines, and I asked for an update on where things are at with that. And I was basically told that no, actually it's not going to be done now. I can appreciate from a cost perspective, but also that needs to be communicated separately to members. I understand then from this motion that there's going to be efforts to engage with the management companies of, well, I assume Baldoyle and Kilbarrack, I'm not sure anywhere else. Can I get an update on what's going on there? It also says enforcement is also an integral part of litter management in Fingal, and cites the Litter Pollution Act. Now under section 19, the local authority can serve notice to remove graffiti. I have asked for that to be done in relation to Baldoyle Industrial Estate. As I said, I really exhausted all options before bringing that motion. And you know, looking at these litter fines, I had brought a motion to the area committee in relation to littering in Bayside Square, particularly outside of Aldi, because a lot of the residents are upset about that. We then were discussing wider within the Howth Malahide area, a lot of the car parks and litter that's around the place. And I've got for here June 1 litter fine for failing to keep public place free of litter outside of businesses. I know that, can I just conclude, just to summarise? that we just need to be doing more there. And I want to know, are we actually enforcing the graffiti on buildings issue? Because I don't think we are. I don't see any evidence of that actually happening. If you can even cite me one example. I know I had put it down for headed item for September about litter.
90 seconds, did we not?
What?
90 seconds is what we're allowed to say.
Yeah, thanks, Councillor McCamley. Councillor McCamley. You're speaking now.
Okay, thank you. I would like to say, and I think the manager has said it all, I was at Flavours on 2 days and it was absolutely wonderful. It was a great experience. Everything went off so well. And I'd just like to thank the events crew for all the work that they've put in, and and it can't be easy. It must have been a huge logistics nightmare to try and put all that together, and for it to come out so perfect in the end. I mean, everything was just so well done, and it was so easy to get there and so easy to leave. No traffic problems whatsoever. And the new layout with the equestrian and the show jumping was just absolutely lovely. So I just want to say thank you very much to the hard-working events team, and to say that they really should be thanked and complimented on how hard that they all worked over the period. Thank you.
Thanks, Councillor. Councillor Butler.
Yeah, thank you. I'll try and speak very fast. Yeah, Flavours of Fingal, absolutely brilliant again. Must continue next year, and we need to look at what we can do with the budget and discuss the whole buses issue. As I did have people come up to me to say they couldn't or wouldn't go to it from Swords because of the bus issue, but a fantastic event again. I was up there with James Mage Road. We had a great 4 hours going around. Concerts, absolutely brilliant. I went to 2 of them, really enjoyed them. Also over the last few weeks I was at concerts in St. Anne's and concerts at Marley Park, and I have to say Fingal do a fantastic job, and Malahide is as good, if not better, than the others. Really well organised. So just to put that in the record as well. I'd just like to ask the Chief Executive first, is there any news on future sports hubs for Swords, improved facilities for sports clubs and community groups after Metro? Particularly with regards to Fingalians, I know there's been meetings ongoing for Fingalians who are going to lose 2 pitches over the courses of Metro. Is there any update on a proposal for pitches by the end of 2027 to cover for that? I know there was discussions regarding Balheary, updates regards to Miller's Glen being used, improved ball stops, so that those pitches could be used for adult teams. At the moment, the ball stops, they can't be used for adult teams or for men because they'll be hitting the houses, so improved ball stops up there. I know there's options being discussed with regards to the Kennel Club, but I suppose it's just to try and move things along faster if we can to guarantee that we will have facilities in place by the end of 2027, so the club can continue with their numbers.
Thanks,
and I suppose also Holywell and Kettles with regards to connecting toilets there so they can be used by girls' teams as well. Thank you.
Thanks very much. Councillor John Smith.
Thank you. Right, I'll be as quick as I can. In terms of Flavours, yeah, look, really good event, and it was great to see all the exhibitors really put in a huge amount of effort. I think the numbers were down. It was the feeling there. Some people enjoyed that. Some people felt that that was as a result of the lack of the shuttle buses. Knowing that there were shuttle buses on from around Donaghbate and Portrane is complete news to me, so I think that's probably why the numbers weren't great there, in terms of the community weren't aware of that. So I'm just looking for some reassurance that we would definitely look at bringing that back next year. And there was a very strange rumour. I was approached by at least 10 people asking me, is it moving to Malahide next year and why? So if we can put that rumour to bed, it would be pretty good. Or it's moving to Ardgillen, I'm being told here beside me. In terms of, look, it's great. I concur with our other councillor there, and delighted to see the new nets already up at Miller's Glen, and that football pitch is going to be able to be used now by adult teams. But we've seen some of the proposals to support Fingalians coming from the council, and I want to make a point that actually it's not the responsibility of the council, that TII had come to the table with less than sufficient alternative, and I think that they really need to step up to the mark here. Some of the offers and some of the proposals put forward are fantastic, and look, we need that and more in terms of the infrastructure for sports around Swords. So if we can get more reassurance on that, and I know there's a big meeting coming up in 4 days' time, which will tell a lot. just final question, one in relation to the Swords Cultural Quarter. Can we outline how the programming for the arts will take place? Is that going to be a committee-led approach, or is it going to be one individual with that responsibility? Thank you.
Thanks. Councillor Luke Corkery.
Thank you, and just to join those who have thanked and commended Paul Barnes and the wider team on a fantastic weekend at Flavours. I think it's a really fantastic way to showcase what we have in the North County, and I also want to commend the tourism team on the Explore Fingal brand, which was very visible across the weekend. And I suppose despite discussion on what this year's event would look like, I spent most of yesterday there and I struggled to see the entire thing. So, it's wonderful to hear that more than 58,000 people showed up, and also fantastic to see some of my colleagues there too. I think there was some validity in the concerns around the lack of transport options from the Swords area, especially for people who don't have cars, so I would ask that be reviewed next year. Just in terms of, well, I suppose I'm a big supporter of Metrolink, as you all know, and of course there will be disruption, and I think we all accept that, including those who will be temporarily, inconvenienced, and that includes Fingalians, which is obviously one of the oldest and largest clubs in the North County, who will lose, as has been said, more than 50% of their playing space to Metroworks. The offer of the site at Alsa is not suitable for their needs, and I think we have a ready-made solution which has been put forward previously and mentioned by Fingalians on land that we own at Balheary, a field that is Fingal land just past the Swords Business Campus. So I suppose a simple question, is that something that we can utilise, and can we start a planning process to have a pitch ready on that site in the second half of this year?
Councillor Joe Newman.
Thanks, Chair. I might as well start off with the Flavours. I'm delighted to see that the Reimagined Flavours is working, that it's here to stay. I went out myself yesterday on a bike. I have a few suggestions for Mr. Story after that. But with the R132 on the way, I'm sure it'll be make things a lot easier. But look, most people go out there, our kids and with our families, and they need the transport and they need our cars. As Councillor Smith said, it'd be nice to see if we could facilitate those people that don't have that mode of transport available to them. Just on the Fingal, the library's partnered up with Cam St. Michael's House in the village. It Takes a Village project. I think that's fantastic. Well done on that. The collaboration with Men's Sheds, Scary's new outdoor biodiversity classroom, and Scary's Mills to facilitate school groups to learn about nature. Great initiative. I was instrumental in it with other councillors in putting GIM 33 onto the Swords map with a view to doing the same thing in a couple of years' time. The Artist Culture progress on the building and the call out for creative producer to help develop participatory and community engaged. That's fantastic news. And I think that's it. Just on the Flavours again, once more to say well done, and it's great that it's here to stay. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Darren Jack Kelly.
Thank you, Mayor. Thanks for that. Thanks for the Chief Executive's reports. Just on Flavours, first of all, it's an amazing event, 14 years in the making. It's one of the best free events in Ireland, I think. And Paul Barnes and his team, who's a young team and small team, who manages very well. With the social media negativity, I just thought that was a bit unfair. They are human beings and doing their best that they can. And just an example, in comparison to Bloom, to go to Bloom will cost €100 for the family. It's quite a big difference to free in to the events down there in Donabate. And as I suggested before, maybe carpooling next year. It's a fabulous event, and I hope it never goes and never ceases to exist. And they did say the numbers are down. I think it was, as you said, quota, Chief Executive, is 58,000, and last year I think it was 64,000. So it's a big amount. It's not a massive amount, in fairness. And I said maybe next year that the guys can consider, rather than look, because I know the bus service is not there at the moment, maybe they could look at the public bus service, and work with them today, to do a plan to bring better public service for the event. and that will probably fit for a lot of people. And in regards to Fingalians, I know we had a meeting there last Thursday. It's probably one of the oldest clubs in Ireland. It's 1884, and I'm fully supportive of Fingalians. I will say I don't agree with most of the options. I think there's probably one option I would agree with, and I think most of the people, most of the 2,000 members in Fingalians would agree with that as well. It's at Balheria behind Amdal there. I do think it's very important that we think that we have something in the 1 kilometre, 1.5 kilometres away from the current pitches. That would be brilliant. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Councillor. Councillor Karina Johnson.
Thanks, Mayor. Firstly, just I suppose I wanted to mention the new glass houses, which were a fabulous tour there last Saturday. I have to say, absolutely amazing. I'm sorry I missed the official launch of it last week. But just to actually highlight, if anyone hasn't been there, it's fantastic. The amount of vegetables that are growing there, melons, I believe we're going to have melons for the first time in 100 years in Donabate. New garden, who's doing fantastic work, so I want to congratulate the team on that. Secondly, just a question in relation to Balmoston. There's an apartment block vacant. I understand that may be social housing. Could we have an update on when those houses and those apartments are going to be occupied? They've been vacant for quite some time. Thirdly, in relation to Flavours of Fingal, look, I live in Donabate. I love Flavours of Fingal. I've been to every single one for the last 14 years. Fantastic event, fantastic work carried out by Paul Barnes and his team. You know, they really put their heart and soul into this event. But just to be very clear, I attended one online meeting a number of months ago in relation to a proposal to downgrade Flavours of Fingal. And at that meeting, which went on for 2 hours, I might add, probably because I was quite vocal in my opposition, because we weren't given any costs. I asked for a breakdown of the cost of the event. We weren't given that. We were told that at high level they were looking at reducing their overall offering for flavours. Some councils weren't supportive because I think they felt maybe they'd get some finance towards events in their own area. To me, that was the wrong approach. I know some of my colleagues spoke with that at the time. Really, the budget needs to increase to ensure that the whole county is growing. So we need to ensure the budgets are increased to ensure that with all the new communities that are being built, that we have events to bring new and old, communities together. In terms of the event over the weekend, look, a couple of hiccups over the weekend on Donabate in terms of parking in estates and things like that. Look, overall, I think my whole concern has been the lack of public transport and the lack of buses. Donabate is the worst served for public transport in terms of buses in the entire North Fingal, I might add. People were very, very upset and very angry that the decision was taken. We only found out last May at an area committee meeting that the buses were not going to be servicing the residents this year.
Thanks very much. Councillor Patrick Quinlan.
Thanks very much, sir. Just very quickly, I submitted a question and a motion in relation to Dunsink for this full council agenda. It was deemed to be area specific, so it was moved from this agenda to the local area agenda, which I find absolutely laughable, because we're sitting here in Fingal County Council at a full council meeting. The Chief Executive's report opens up with a mention of Dunsink 5 or 6 times, and the Chief Executive in our open address here inside the chamber mentioned Dunsink. So any questions or motions that are submitted in relation to Dunsink, in my view, are pertinent at this chamber, inside this chamber, and to be discussed in this council. Anyway, I'll just ask the question here now. The question was to ask the Chief Executive, in the context of Dunsink, who'll manage the social housing allocations. Is it going to be Fingal County Council directly, or is it going to be approved housing bodies? And what oversight or influence will elected members have when it comes to the allocations? 26. We'll give you the motion. This is what I submitted to the chamber. This is what I submitted to corporate services, and I was told it wasn't relevant for the full council. The motion was that this council directs that the draft of Dunsink Urban Area Plan provide for residential development that is predominantly low-rise family housing of no more than 2 to 3 stories with private gardens, such that high-density apartment and built-to-rent schemes shall not be the predominant housing type. That height restrictions shall not apply to commercial, retail, community, civic, educational buildings, and that the Chief Executive report to members on how this objective can be incorporated into the plan. So when answering the question, I'd like an on-the-record response of how that rationale with Fingal of it not being relevant to the chamber today exists, really, to be honest.
Thanks, Councillor, and you get the response, no problem. Councillor Ellen Troy, thank you.
Thank you. Thanks for the report, and I'm so sorry that I missed the flavours. It sounds like a brilliant event, and to think that it's free, well done, everybody involved. I was away, I couldn't go. But I just want to talk about Dunsink as well. Just want to know what public roads are planned for use before, during construction and after construction, given that there's going to be 18,500 homes, which is fantastic, but I keep going on about it, that I live in the area and I know the restrictions just only too well. And the Dunsink Transport Assessment Report recognises that the roads, the existing roads are very limited in capacity to accommodate additional traffic. So I'm just wondering, where are the solutions and what are we going to do about this? Also, the observatory, the levels in the vicinity, the light levels in the vicinity, what is the difference between the current light levels and the proposed ambient light levels? I'm just wondering how that will impact on the change or impact of this, how this will impact the working operations and needs of the observatory. So, thank you.
Councillor Paul Mulville.
Thanks, Chair. Yeah, just 4 points. Firstly, on flavours of Fingal, congratulate all the team, as everyone has said. Brilliant day, brilliant weekend. Lots of various issues from the community, as Councillor Johnson has mentioned, so we'll feed them into the review, and particularly around the bus from Portrand that the Chief Executive mentioned. Very poor communication to us about that, so we didn't know about it in advance, and a lot of people in the area didn't know about it. But overall, congratulations to everyone involved. Brilliant weekend. Number 2, the Council's migrant integration and support strategy. Important to have a new updated action plan in place. A really important document, really important actions I'm sure to arise from that. So what's the update on that? Number 3, to support the Fingalians GA pitches, as others have said, long-standing local club, they must be supported in terms of having more pitches. And finally, emphasise the urgency around the erosion works at Portrand and to have clarification for the local residents exactly what's going to happen and when. There's a bit of confusion there. I know there's a lot planned, but we just need to know exactly what's happening and when. A bit of a timeline, please. Thanks very much.
Sorry, can you just repeat that last piece, please, Councillor?
Around when the works are starting and what's exactly going to happen. Just some clarification, please, yeah. And obviously everyone is greatly welcoming the works and looking forward to see them starting and being completed. Thanks very much.
Thanks. Councillor James Humphreys.
Thank you, Mayor. Considering the government's decision to bring in primary legislation to deal with the cap at Dublin Airport, what effect has that got with our ongoing court case with the DAA? And could you give a quick update on that? Flavours is fantastic. It is council-led by council employees. It's a pity that my motion earlier wasn't allowed, kind of a model of what council can do directly. Certainly should be an example of everything we do across the county. And Fingalians, I'd certainly support everything that's been previously said. I'd like to echo something that has been said, is that it's the TAI and the Minister that needs to be the driver in supplying. It was them that gave the commitment during the consultation period. Certainly would hope that the Council Executive would lend their support to Fingalians in pushing that through with the Minister and the TAI. And I'm going to keep it under 90 seconds, right?
Councillor John Walsh.
Thanks to the Chief Executive for the report, and 3 quick points. I mean, firstly, just a question on the pedestrian and cycling scheme at Granard Bridge in Castleknock. I think it's an excellent scheme which will provide a safe and attractive route for pedestrians and cyclists over the rail line and Royal Canal, and I appreciate there's a detailed response or a detailed report on it. So my question is really just, it's now moved on to phase 3, which is preliminary design. Does that involve a further period of non-statutory consultation with the public? And what's the timeline for moving to phase 4, which is the statutory process to obtain planning permission for the project. Secondly, just to say thank you to the operations team for all their work so far in rolling out the programme of works in Dublin 15. I know a lot of work has been done so far, and a lot of work is in preparation. And thirdly, I'd actually like to thank the planners, planners and planning enforcement team for holding the line in terms of proper planning in relation to drones and drone delivery hubs. There was a very strong cross-community campaign by Drone Action Dublin 15, which pointed out a huge range of issues with drones, but in particular, the 3 drone delivery hubs were set up without planning permission. And planning enforcement, I had raised that with the planning enforcement team, and they acted to issue enforcement procedures for all 3. 2 were obliged to close, and 1 was denied planning permission, and 1 is still the subject of a live planning application. But just pay tribute to the cross-community campaign there, and also acknowledge how well Fingal responded to it, and dealt with bizarre arguments around how parking a drone was like parking a car, and the planning is a grey area. It's not a grey area, it's a black and white area. Thanks very much.
Thanks. Councillor Cahill-Hoggy.
Thanks very much for the report. Just on New Street in Malahide, the New Street project, the tender will close in mid-July. Just wondering, is there an update, I assume, from Mr. Story? Is it August or September where we expect the works to start? I'm assuming it's, I think it's September from memory, but just looking for confirmation on that. And then I heard from a business owner today that they had heard that there was going to be a kind of temporary yard for construction vehicles where the fire brigade in Malahide station used to be kind of around the corner from Cajal, but that could just be a rumour, or is there any truth to that? Because if not, construction vehicles are obviously going to be parked in the car parking spaces in Malahide. Then just on the concerts and Flavours of Fingal, just, you know, a very busy time for the events team, and well done, very well organised events. Just in terms of the shuttle buses, if they, I actually don't, I assume they're free. If there was a small charge paid for them, perhaps that could make the car parking, the charge for parking your car a little bit less, because for some people they did find it excessive. So thanks.
Councillor Owen Dockland.
Yeah, just on Flavours, I thought it was a brilliant weekend. I had friends who had never attended before, and they were taken aback by the breadth of entertainment on offer. I'd also like to thank Paul Barnes and the events team. I know they had to rejig it this year, but it wasn't really that noticeable. So again, I think I'd trust Paul Barnes if he decided in his feedback sessions that they needed more funding for next year to make it even better. I'd be very supportive, because we're very lucky to have both Newbridge and an event like that involves enormous preparation. To have that on our doorsteps in North County Dublin, we're very fortunate. So thanks to the entire team for all their work on that.
Councillor Malachy Quinn.
Report, just a couple of points. I just want to congratulate the events team on, in such a short space of time, to have Malahide concerts and the Flavour of Fingal event, this happening on a yearly basis. It was great to see the families making their way down Railway Street in Balbriggan with their folding up chairs on the way, because you knew where they were going. They were going to Flavours, and they were able to use public transport. Unfortunately, that wasn't the case for some people in Swords, but that can be looked at. We can address that going forward. Just in relation to the concerts, great job done by everybody, getting all the crowds out, getting all of us out of Malahide in a timely fashion, whether that be in a car or walking. And I just want to thank the planning and enforcement team for the work that they've done in enforcement issues that I've raised in Balbriggan, and just to highlight enforcement issue that has come across our table in regards to EV charging in Folkestown Park. As part of the plan for permission, the EV charging formed part of that. It hasn't been developed, and I hope plan enforcement can apply the necessary pressure to get that, because people have bought their houses and have bought into that estate with the view of having an EV charging point there. Thank you very much.
Councillor J.K. O'Meara.
Thank you, Mayor. I'd like to commend the Chief Executive and staff of Fingal County Council for the wonderful work we all can see in the Chief Executive's report. But I must also, decry the act of vandalism that, can be seen, especially in some of our parks with regards to facilities such as the eco-toilet. And this seems to be happening more frequently, and perhaps something needs to be done in relation to what can be done. The effort or the installation of CCTV in Lanesborough seems to have, in the interim, curbed the act of vandalism in relation to the setting ablaze of council facilities there. But I must also commend the installation of wheelchair accessibility into the Lanesborough Park. I think that is amazing, even though what's been installed so far seems to be a temporary facility. But I think it's really wonderful that, people on wheelchair can access, the park, especially the play area where a whole lot of other activities take place. So even if that's the only thing that has been done, I think it's really commendable. And I just want to say thank you.
Councillor David Healy.
Good morning, and thanks to the Chief Executive for the report. Thanks also for the response to my question 12, which was about special development contributions. And it's a very useful table. It's giving a lot of information. But what it's highlighting is a number of developments for which special development contributions have been paid, and where we as a council are not advancing the project for which the contribution has been paid. And they include the pedestrian bridge at Claremont Beach, a pedestrian bridge at the Ward River, the Drumney Road junction, a footpath in Garristown, and active travel connectivity improvements to the school in Portmarnock across Carrick Road. And there are a few others, but what's really striking is that we've got a big collection of active travel projects for which we've got special development contributions paid, on which we don't seem to be making much progress. Certainly in relation to my area, we don't seem to be making any progress, and I have asked about some of these at the area committee, and I'd just like to know, is there a kind of a systemic issue with responsibility for these projects, and when can we see movement on them? Thanks very much.
Thank you. Councillor Tom O'Leary.
Thank you. Well done to the events team. And I note nearly 60,000 people attended the Flavours of Fingal, so well done Paul Barnes and the team. And John Quinlivan and the team who engaged to rejig how we do it. And we still have huge numbers going there and a very positive future there. I want to support Fingalians. They've been on to me as well, and I met them when I was mayor. And I think it's long past time that this nut was cracked and that something was done about this. And I look forward to something happening. There's a lot of senior people engaged, including ministers, and surely between everyone, if we're going to build a metro, we can find a pitch for a football club, and we need to do that and do that quickly. Skerries, just noting the 1.3 million upgrade of community centre pitches is ongoing, and it's great to see it, and well done to everyone in the council who made it happen. Planning and ongoing consultation is happening for the 55-acre sports hub, new bigger allotments, and a biodiversity park in Skerries too. And that's ongoing with Kevin Halpenny, and I look forward, hopefully, to a Part 8 planning permission application in Q1 2027. I note from the Chief Executive's report the 700,000 for John Quinlivan for 3 condition reports by architects, including Skerries Mills. So when will the Skerries Mills report be completed? Because that report is holding up planning and action plans for Skerries Mills. And then, well done, what have I got here? I can't see it. Oh yes, the Chief Executive and the team and Paul Carroll, well done. Looks like we're going to exceed our housing targets considerably. And one last punt, because I have a motion down for the September meeting of the area committee meeting to help rebalance the movement in the county and concerts. I think we need to re-examine the potential of using Argillan for events. And we need to revisit that and get an independent report whether it's possible or not. I know currently some people think it isn't, but I think we should look at it and see what we can do. An American company rented it for a full weekend for all their staff from America one time, with 3,000 people occupying it. I'm not saying that's the way to go. I'd love to see some sort of concerts there. I think it's possible to solve it. Thank you.
Thank you very much for your comments and the questions. And now I'll hand over to the officials to respond. Thank you.
Thanks, Mayor and members, and thanks for your tributes to the events team. I'll take these in order. I think Flavours of Fingal came up from most contributors. A couple of things. We advertised our licence for the event back in March, April. We planned for a 60,000 event capacity, and we delivered an event attendance of 58,300. So near enough perfect. Have to ask Paul how he got that number. So close, but a little bit wrong. But so basically, we ran the event that we planned to run, and the event management plan that was published. The details are there on consultfingal.ie, all available. So everything aligns with the result and the event that happened over the weekend. The members here, it is your responsibility to approve the event plan. So it's a reserve function, and that was approved by yourselves in June. So that's the event we said we were having, and you approved the event. So there shouldn't have been any surprises. In addition to that, the conversation about, I suppose, the cost of Flavours of Fingal last year, and the ability to render a more cost-effective event, I think started last August, September, but Mr. Quinlivan, I'm sure, will come in on that with the precise details. And yes, shuttle buses can be run, but they're not public transport, and we estimated, based on usage last year, the cost per person would be up to €40 per person. So that's why it couldn't be repeated this year. And there is public transport from Swords to Donabate, and at a lot cheaper price than that. So we felt people would take that alternate option, the cheaper public transport, or at the very least choose to book their car in. The car pricing is the same as it has been for the last 3 years. There's no change. And in fact, we ran discounts for a much longer period this year. And I think it was as cheap as €10, 14 euro, and €30 up to Friday. So nothing changed in that space, exactly the same as ever. So that was a false narrative, and it was disappointing, because the effect of it was to leave the public with less confidence in the event, because they weren't sure whether they would be stuck in traffic or not, based on the communications that were going out. I understand the shuttles to Donabate Portrane was at the request of the area committee when the licence was brought to the area committee. So why there's no knowledge about it, maybe John, you could come in on that. In terms of moving it to Malahide, there's no plan that I know of, but I would say there was 8 events of 30,000 in Malahide in a 3-week period. So, you know, there's quite a number of large events in Malahide already. On the Dunsink plan to Councillor Quinlan and Councillor Troy, what I mentioned was the consultation is ongoing. It's a draft plan, and the consultation period is open now, so it's not appropriate to answer questions in relation to it. You should advise all stakeholders that bring queries to you to make their submission on any issue and every issue in the plan, and that can happen up to the 30th of July. In the meantime, there's some stakeholder consultations happening. So yeah, the actual adoption of the urban area plan is a council function, will be coming to the council for decision in due course, we think around October, and that's when it will be listed on the council agenda. It is correct to say those detail items should not be on the council agenda, in accordance with the standing orders, and the team can pull that standing order out if you need to, in terms of local area business, should be on the local area committee. On Fingalians, yeah, we've been always very supportive of Fingalians, as we are of all sports clubs where we can be of assistance. So we've been, I suppose, trying to facilitate the solution here. I understand they'll lose facilities for about 2.5 years, but ultimately there will be a replacement all-weather pitch provided on Balheary for Fingalians, which will be available obviously permanently for their use. We've been trying to encourage TII to find the best early solution, and we did put forward some land. How that would work would be that TII would license it from us for the 2.5 years and have it ready and fit for purpose for the club. It's not ready yet. There's no football pitches on that land right now, so it will take typically about 18 months for pitches to be developed, so it wouldn't be ready in the autumn of 27, but the sooner it's gotten ready, the sooner it would be available if that were an option. But it would be a temporary license to TII, who would be responsible for delivering the temporary facility. And again, our door's open. We've been meeting them regularly, and again, we totally encourage them to move on. We did consider the likes of the Kennel Club, for example, might be a better, more longer-term solution, but again, that's a matter for TII to progress, and hopefully we will reach agreement with everybody. I definitely need operations to come in just in relation to the Glenellen facilities and the higher nets, but I think somebody mentioned that they're in place already. But those pitches get good usage, and I think girls' teams in particular use them regularly because of the facilities there. Councillor Humphreys mentioned the Dublin Airport legislation that was passed in the Dáil last week. That's just when that comes into law. Obviously, we're obliged to implement whatever legislation is in place at the time, but we still continue to deal with planning applications that are relevant to us, and that live application for the increase in capacity to 40 million passengers per annum, and also the infrastructure associated with it, is still under assessment, and the current situation is that a noise assessment is on display by ANCA in relation to that application. So that's simply just where it sits.
Through the chair, please. Thank you.
Yes. So Fingal County Council does not have any current High Court cases against DAA. DAA have legal proceedings against the council, and there should be a report on those in the Chief Executive's report, but in summary, most of them are stayed by the courts and not progressing at this time. I think that covers all of the high-level stuff. I might hand over to the team, and if I've left anything out that I need to come back in, I'll come back in at the end.
Thanks, Chief Exec. Just a couple of items for me. Councillor Tormey, under the litter management plan, on page 90 of the Chief Exec report, it gives a full breakdown of the litter fines for the last number of months, the number of warnings issued, and also then gives a breakdown of what the fines were issued for. There's also 1,500 interactions under the litter management plan in June 2026. Over the last couple of months, we've engaged 3 new litter wardens. There's another one to come on board, and we're now working winter and summer shifts. And there will be an update on the litter management plan coming to the area committees in September. So you can raise all those queries with the team at that stage, individual queries. In relation to the litter or the fines for the railway or the graffiti, I'm not aware that there's any fines being issued there, but we'll take that up with the team. Just in relation to New Street, the tender, as I said, last month is out. It will be, all things going well, be on site in September. The compound, we're looking at a number of options for the compound. And obviously, once we have a solution there, we'll let the members know what's happening there. Thanks.
Thank you, members. Just Councillor Cullen, in relation to your query around the EV enforcement. So the warning letter was issued last month and it remains under investigation while we await a reply from the developer in question.
And just 2 queries there. Councillor Mulville, just in relation to the coastal protection works. So for the last few weeks, the contractors, has been mobilising and delivering significant quantities of materials onto the site. And there's been some survey work carried out, and Mr. Halpenny has been in contact with a number of local residents just in relation to their own properties. We're having a meeting with our expert consultant, RPS Checker Tech, on Wednesday, and we'll provide councillors and the coastal liaison with a written timeline of just the works just following that meeting. Councillor Walsh, just a query there in terms of Granard Bridge. Detailed design typically takes 6 to 12 months. Now that can be complicated because of our engagement with Waterways Ireland and Irish Rail. So look, I will try and come back to you with a more detailed timeline and the other local councillors. Thanks.
In relation to Councillor Johnson's query on a vacant block in Balmoston, that is being allocated at the moment. Often these blocks can appear to be vacant, but there's a reason why it hasn't been taken over, be that a certificate or something like that. Or, but that's, I can confirm it's going through the allocations process at the moment, so there's progress on that. In terms of Dunsink, who will manage the social housing there, the allocation scheme obviously is approved by the members, and that governs how we allocate the social housing under our remit. And the management of it then will fall either to ourselves or to an approved housing body, depending on who owns it, on something of that scale. It's very early days to be saying who exactly will be managing the social housing, but it's likely there'll be a combination of different management forms in that final development.
Councillor Quinlan, just to follow up on the CE's response, Standing Order 54 was the relevant standing order regarding local business.
Thanks, members. Look, members, first I want to thank you all for the compliments for the events team and the recognition that the negative commentary was very unfair to them, both personally and professionally. We're limited as officials in our ability to respond to these things. We all know that those with positive messages don't tend to post, but we very much welcome the support that we get from elected members and from other elected representatives. Councillor McCamley, it's not a logistical nightmare to organise flavours. We have an extremely capable and professional team, and it's hard work, but it's not a nightmare. What is a problem is the negative messaging. It created a false impression of what the experience was going to be like, and you know, it was proven to be false. We have absolute confidence in our staff and the traffic management plan that has evolved and worked well over a number of years, and it's designed to deal with up to 6,000 cars to be parked. On Saturday we had 1,961 cars. On Sunday we had 4,164. So even on Sunday we had plenty of capacity within the traffic management plan. People were clearly reassured by the effectiveness of that traffic management plan on Saturday, and 37,000 people turned out on Saturday, and that's a near record, or sorry, on Sunday, and that's a near record for any day in flavours in any year. A number of councillors have referred to the numbers being down, and you know, they were a bit down on Saturday. You know, it was a better day than the 21,000 would have indicated. But it's also a factor on Sunday. It felt like there was more room than there was usually, and that's down to the revised layout. We moved pretty much everything out to the back of the house, and there felt like there was more space. Even at near approaching record numbers, it felt like there was more space. The reaction that we've got from the vendors, from the people who were in attendance, from the farmers groups, from all of the groups there, that it was a much improved layout and that the experience was generally better. Councillor Smith, I am aware of no plan to move it to Malahide. It is certainly not our plan, and I don't know where that rumour started, but it can end here today. In relation to the process of engagement, the discussion around the budget for flavours started at the budget meeting in November 2024. It was at the time accounting for nearly 30% of the overall events budget for the council. Since then, it was between December 24 and September 25, it was on the agenda at the Economic SPC 5 times. There was an all-members briefing in September 2025. The area committees were briefed on various aspects, but particularly on flavours of Fingal in November 2025. It was a headed item here in February this year under the events programme, and there was a detailed presentation given around how the reimagining, if you remember that, the coining of that phrase that day, the reimagination of flavours was happening. And it was clearly stated in that presentation that we would be discontinuing the bus service for this year. euro a head is not quite right. It has cost in the past up to 35 euro a head. We anticipated that it could likely run to 40 euro per head, and that's even at charging €5 per person to take that. That is the net difference, was 35. We had the area committee briefing happened in May, and how the licence requirements were going to be met, again including the whole area around the traffic management plan, the management of cars, and the absence of the dedicated bus service, and then at the full council meeting in June 2026. So there was extensive engagement with members through a variety of committees and briefings, you know, I don't accept that there wasn't extensive engagement. As regards to buses and transport, the Peninsula Shuttle Bus has been in place for about 5 years. It's run every year, and the people of the area do know fairly well that it's there. It was discussed at the ACM, and assurances were given, and it was mentioned at the site meeting last Thursday, and assurances have been given, and you know, we will always acknowledge that we need to promote things more and better, but it has been there for 5 years, so it shouldn't be the case that people did not know. We always review and debrief in the debrief period, and we will work closely with the public transport providers, and we'll be sitting down with those providers in the coming weeks to review this year and start work for next year, as we do every year. But it is a simple fact of life that we live in the capital city. We compete with other major public events, and you know, there was 160,000 people in Croke Park over the weekend, and that's just a simple fact of life for where we're situated. I do want to add my own congratulations to the team. It was a fantastic event. I went there at peak arrival time. I left there at peak departure time, just to test, and on Saturday I was 35 minutes. On Sunday, I was 30 minutes. It seemed to me to work extremely well. It was a fantastic event, and I have to say the events team are a great group of people to work with. I'll remind you members that one of the things that has been made possible by the reimagining of Flavours is the freeing up of funds to run a major event in Dublin 15 in August, and we look forward to seeing you all at that. Councillor O'Leary, you asked about the Skerries Mill, the IDT report. We expect to have that in Q4 this year, and we'll be planning then into next year. And as regards Ardgill concerts, it's an extremely challenging location for transportation and all the rest of it. We have not been able to get a huge amount of interest in running concerts there, but we're open to it, and you know, we do have contacts with promoters, and we will raise the potential again. Thanks.
Thank you, members. I'll just go through these queries in detail here. Councillor Tormey, with regard to the graffiti in Baldoyle Industrial Estate, we are working to establish the various roles and responsibilities of the different parties here in terms of ownership and membership and so on, and we still do not have clarity on that, but we're working on that one. And there is some engagement and collaboration with the other teams in Fingal by my teams in terms of enforcement, as you have previously mentioned. And once we have all of that, we will just understand the significance of any precedent that we may set, because as is written in that response there, it is normally only conducted in a public area. So we'll get better inform ourselves before we update any further on that one. Some members, or Councillor Butler mentioned, as did a lot of other councillors, with regard to the Malahide concerts, and they were a great success, significant organisation and administration and early stakeholder engagement went on with the operations team, as with the ETD team, and all the various different parties, and of course attendance on site, albeit that it was managed by MCD. There was a lot of staff there on the nights, just as custodians or protectors of the area. So as director, it's my first time to be there at those concerts, and it was really well managed, and a couple of little bumps along the way, which were the team showed their great resilience and organisation there. And there's a debrief meeting taking place next week. Councillor Corkery, with regard, you clarified Miller's Glen as opposed to Glen Ellen, and I'm not sure the answer to that, but I'll check it out and come back to you. Councillor Johnson raised about the glass houses in Newbridge, and I was out there at the opening as well, and we really look forward to operating and maintaining in that area is such a wonderful asset. Councillor Walsh mentioned about the programme of works, and I appreciate the thanks there. It is making success not just in Dublin 15 but across the county. Malahide concerts again, and also with regard to the vandalism in some of the facilities in Dublin 15, as we said I think at the last council meeting, we could think of a lot better ways to spend taxpayers' money than seeing such great, wonderful facilities vandalised, and we are working on various different proposals that we could do to prevent such thing happening in the future, because people do deserve their services in those areas. And I think that's everything. Thank you.
Okay, thanks very much. Can the Chief Executive's report be noted? Sorry, Councillor Healy.
My question wasn't answered. Thanks. It was about special development contributions.
Can you ask again?
Yes, Councillor Healy. I've just reviewed the list, so I think we need to come back to you with some answers. I can see some of those works are actually complete, and then more are in the planning and in the capital programme. So we'll come back to you on that issue.
So the report is noted. Thank you very much. Item number 21, Mayor's Business. No Mayor's Business. Item number 22. You can raise a point of order, certainly.
Yeah, thanks. A couple of weeks ago was my kind of third year in the council, and today was the first time I've witnessed any councillors' mic being turned off. Now, I may have missed some, may have not kind of clicked with me, but if that's to be the new norm, we have to make sure we're not selective in terms of whose mic, who we mute and who we don't mute, because it wasn't applied equally today. Thank you.
It's been used before. Thank you very much. So, item number 22, conference report. A McGill Summer School 2026, 23rd to 25th of July, 2026, Highlands Hotel, Glenties, County Donegal. Noted. Item B, IRDA Annual Conference 2026, 30 September 2026, Radisson Blue Royal Hotel, Golden Lane, Dublin 8. Noted. Correspondence for noting. Letter dated the 11th of June 2026 from Wexford County Council. Re-abolition of the USC in Budget 2027. Noted. Okay, item number 24, Departmental Ministerial Correspondence. There's no business. And we're now on to motion. So we have a motion in the name of Councillor Luke Corkery. Thank you. The floor is yours.
Thank you. Just in relation to EV charging, specifically with regard to, I suppose, homes that don't have a specified parking space. Look, it's something that we've all seen in the areas that we represent. It's been raised with me several times. If you live in a house that forms part of a terrace or a duplex that doesn't have a designated parking space, or where there's a public footpath between your home and that space, it's probably not recommended that you buy an EV, which is wrong, and that's, I suppose, evidenced by the enforcement notices handed out to people who have attempted to install means of charging, and as we know, that's taken many forms, including overhead structures, taping wires to the footpath. Obviously that's not viable, but I would like to see something that is. So they obviously need to apply for a road opening license, but they aren't allowed to do that under current rules. So looking for a solution. I accept that there's national guidance due to be released on this, which I welcome, but I'd also welcome any further comments. Gormargav.
Councillor Tom O'Leary.
Thank you. I think I've been lobbying for this for maybe 4 years. Anyway, I've had a few email interactions with David Story over there, and we're a victim of the government and the civil servants who are really very slow to act when this is already happening in the UK and has been for years. And I've sent on to government ministers and to hear, but it's not the responsibility of David Storey here, it's the responsibility of the government to change the rules or the law, and they're doing that, but the snail's pace, and I'm a member of a government party, the snail's pace of changing to do something sensible is just really, really frustrating. So anyway, I had an email at the weekend, again, from someone else, in a new estate in Ballygossan, well, relatively new, the tail end of the finishing of the estate, a new building area, of a gentleman who has done the right thing. He's bought an EV car and he can't charge his car because he doesn't have a private garden, and he's having difficulty with the management company who won't facilitate or allow charging points or whatever, because they're waiting on the government legislation. So I'm glad that the government legislation is coming. Council hands are tied, but I hope that the government move on this at a bit of a quicker pace, and I don't understand how UK county councils can enact and get stuff done, and we have to wait years for it. It's part of the what's the word in this country? The red tape that holds a lot of things up here, and that includes building homes. So I'm looking forward to the new legislation coming in, and what's it called there? It said EVI, that group, coming up with a solution, because it's out there. It's happening elsewhere, and we're waiting for it in Fingal. Thank you.
Councillor Dara Butler.
Yeah, just another aspect of this is, if you look at it in Swords, an example would be, say, St. Werburgh's there on the way between Swords and Malahide. If they kind of like two kind of apartment complexes and car parking spaces within a section or within a gated area, and like if they get a provider in to put these charging points in place, they're effectively paying the same rates they'd pay if they're at a petrol station or on the street or somewhere. They're not able to benefit from the rates as if like someone in a house who simply had a connection to their own electricity and their own electricity bill. So instead of being able to kind of get the cheaper rate on their own house bill, they're being forced within a state, within their community, for whatever provider they go with, they end up paying market rates, as if they were parking on the street, as I said, or a petrol station. So I think that's something, and I've raised that with the Minister as well, but that is a part of this we need to look at, and if it's maybe the next development plan, if there's anything we can do, that when people within those sort of communities connect, that they're actually connecting to their own house bill and not a third-party vendor that's charging them way over the odds. Thanks.
Councillor Brian McDonough.
Yeah, I congratulate on this motion. It's a really important issue. We really need to reduce the carbon emissions of our transport, but also electric cars are likely to become a cornerstone of the whole electricity system, because they have the capability to act not only as reducing transport emissions, but to act as stores of electricity, particularly in relation to electricity like solar. The economic difference between charging from your own home and charging from one of the commercial stations is huge. You can get deals of up to or as low as 9 cents a kilowatt hour if you charge between 2 and 4 in the morning, which is a tenth or a fraction of what is going to be charged if you're charging at a power station. But there is as well, in order to kind of get adequate charging as well, there is an upgrade required, I think, on many houses in terms of the connection locally to the grid that you're having. Depending on the age of your house, you need various works done. Again, it's an instance of, the people who are complaining about all the red tape. Central government have hamstrung local authorities because we're unable to enact legislation, or we're unable to come up with solutions ourselves in order to be able to get this kind of thing done. So it's a damning indictment to central government and the lack of seriousness that they're taking climate change. There's a lot of lip service being paid to it, but we're still driving ahead with data centres pretending they're going to solve the problem without actually taking ordinary actions that they've had years to look at. So I'm delighted to see councillors from within their own parties, because it's not easy to do that, having a go, and hopefully that pressure will really help. Thanks.
Thanks very much, Councillor. Councillor Malachy Quinn.
Yeah, I'd very much support the motion. It's happening at the moment. There's estates here that are beginning a taking in charge process, that EV chargers have been put in place, and the builders have turned a blind eye. The developer has turned a blind eye because it's not going to be his problem anymore soon enough. So we're going to be dealing with that coming down the line. I had, in between the time I was off the council, I had 3 or 4 representations in regards to my own estate and EV charges, and unfortunately Fingal were not in a position to be able to advise on best practice. So needs must, and each one of them went their own way and did it themselves. This estate possibly, hopefully, will be taken in charge soon, and we'll have to deal with that. Thank you.
Councillor Mary McCamley.
Thanks very much. I had a very similar motion when Mick Carroll was here. So I don't know when Mick Carroll left, but that's how long ago I had a very similar. And I was told then that all the councils were getting together to discuss and see what would happen. So obviously nothing did happen in the meantime. And the reason why I put it down was because I am one of those houses. I don't have a place to put my car, so I can't buy an electric car. And so that's why I put it down at the time. And I see we're still going on, so hopefully it will be solved soon. So I'd just like to thank the councillor for bringing it up again, keeping it on the agenda, and I certainly would be delighted to support.
Councillor Joe Newman.
Thanks, Mayor. Yeah, it's a bit of a tricky one, all right. It's just been approached recently about a chap up in the Cedarwood Avenue in Swords there with regards to trying to get a charging point outside. What he was suggesting was that we could a channel in the footpath to run a cable out so as he could charge his car. And I don't know if there's such a thing on the market. I know they do it in the UK, but maybe there's a bit of a gap there that is not properly covered, but it might be a solution. You know, other than that, for where you have houses, terrace houses with no options other than to go across the footpath, maybe we should be looking at, in new housing estates, putting some sort of a hub within the estate that people can access themselves and charge their cars without it being just outside. Because, you know, if you put a charger outside on the road for a person in a house, they'll be parking there probably all the time, and there'll be more issues caused with that. So apart from the channel, I'm not really sure how a charger out on the road would work. Thanks.
Councillor David Healy.
Good morning, and thanks for the report. Just, I think Councillor McCamley maybe has been a bit unfair to our officials in that they have been doing a lot of work on this over the years, and there's a detailed report from the 4 Dublin local authorities, a strategy, which was pretty much about trying to get the charging facilities installed in car parks, be it at supermarkets or county council car parks and so on. And I'd be grateful for kind of an update as to how that has been going. But it's come up against the problem, which I think people have expressed very well, which is the rates being charged. And maybe when it comes to our car parks, I'd be interested to know if we've been managing that when we've been installing charging facilities in our car parks. And I know in relation to what Councillor Newman was saying, we have been requiring in our planning decisions the provision of charging within car parks in residential developments. So we have been addressing it to that level. But the issue being raised here, which is of spaces on the carriageway, which anybody is entitled to park in, being connected to one person's house, is a particular problem because anybody can park in any road, paying a fee if there is one. And presumably the charging will then only be available for one person. And so, this isn't a simple request that's being made here. Thank you.
Councillor James Humphreys.
Thank you, Mayor, and thank you, Councillor, for bringing forward this motion. It's nice to see a definitive answer. I know I've raised this at Area Committee a couple of years ago when this first came on my radar, and it was certainly a convoluted jigsaw of an answer that I got back. So it's nice to see that there's some progress and some clarity finally being brought to bear in the answers being received. I just have, this is a very predictable problem that we're facing, and it's so predictable that we did discuss that. We talked about putting charging points in our light poles. We talked about community charging places. That is actually in our development plan. But we also, I don't know if it was ourselves, but another Dublin authority that trialled the channels that previous councillor mentioned as well. So I'd certainly be interested to know if there's any kind of hint at what is coming down the line on this. And if the grant is going to extend to the additional cost of a channel and also a road opening licence, that would still be required, because any work done on the footpaths in our council estates has to go through the clerk's office, because it has to be checked, because we already have enough problems maintaining our footpaths without channels being dug through slabs of concrete that are going to create further problems down the line. So any solution that's been addressed, it needs to be future-proofed, it needs to be consistent across the board, and the work before and after needs to be checked, so we're not in a situation where we're causing more issues for our footpaths in the county.
Councillor Mark Boland.
Thank you, Mayor, and thank you to Councillor Corkery for bringing this forward. It's a very important issue that needs to stay on our agenda, and it certainly is an issue in terms of people in my area in Russian Lusk getting in touch with me about houses without driveways. So I think it's very important that we proactively look for a solution here. I would ask that all the other councillors do support this motion, because we do need to find a solution, and I look forward to that solution coming in the future. Thank you.
Councillor J.K. Wera.
Thank you, Mayor. I'd like to commend the Deputy Mayor, Luke Cockrell, for bringing this up. I think it's really very important that we keep our eyes on the ball in relation to decarbonization and climate action. That, in my opinion, would be, how to incentivize the residents using electric vehicles and the likes. So unfortunately, if we don't step things up, residents won't be in a position to do so. So I think it's really important that we keep this on the front burner and ensure that we are also in tune with the Climate Action 2030, which it would seem, generally, we probably are not doing as well as we could, but, this would be a step in the right direction. Thank you.
Councillor John Walsh.
To just say thanks to Councillor Corkery for bringing forward the motion. I fully agree with it. As others have said, this is the lack of availability of electric vehicle charging is a constant problem, particularly in new developments. Personally dealt with cases in development of the Phoenix Park Racecourse that even where planning conditions have required the installation or the installation of ducting for electric charging, or in some cases of electric chargers, that simply hasn't been done. So it's a key issue. It is complicated, but it's absolutely crucial to meeting the challenge of climate change, that there is there's a proper functioning and sustainable network for electric vehicle charging.
Thanks. Thank you very much. Mr. Story.
Members, thanks for all the comments. I get the sense of frustration in the room, no more than with myself for this. The EV infrastructure journey started in Fingal in 2020 when the four local authorities got together and prepared a strategy for the Dublin region, which was produced in 2022. And that identified neighbourhood charging as one of the key things to be provided. Now, what we've been doing in the last couple of years, we have at the moment a contractor in place to provide the destination chargers at 15 locations throughout the county. So some of them are on site at the moment, and that was I think it was in one of the questions earlier on, I think question 11 earlier on the agenda, and the list of the locations are included there. In relation to the neighbourhood charging, we are totally reliant on the department for zero emissions office. We've also been in discussions with the Department of Housing. I wrote to them a number of months ago, again looking for clarity for update to bring it's a highly regulated market or highly regulated area, and the issue is about the private wire that's in the footpath that goes into the ownership of ESB, and that has to be deregulated. So that's what the Minister is talking about when he's coming forward with a solution. And there is a number of options that we've seen there. There's the channel one that some of the councillors have talked about. There's the charges in the public lighting columns as well that we've looked at here previously in Fingal. But until the issue around the deregulation of the private wire is sorted, the local authorities cannot move forward. And this is an issue nationally that needs to be sorted as soon as possible. Thanks, Chair.
Thanks very much. Councillor Corkery.
Thank you, Mr. Story and colleagues for your comments. Look, it seems we're at the mercy of the red tape, so I look forward to a solution from the top down, and I accept the report.
So the motion's agreed. Thank you very much. Item number 26, a motion in the name of Councillor David Healy. Councillor Healy.
Cormagat the Vera. Sorry, just waiting for the light there. We actually have 3 instances that I'm aware, well, possibly a few more, but three major instances that I'm aware of where a total of 1,511 housing units have planning permission on three sites within Fingal. And the landowners, the holders of those planning permissions, are not subject to the residential zoned land tax because the land is currently being used for car parking. And it's for car parking for a shopping centre in the case of 2 of those permissions, and for employment car parking in another case. Now, it seems obvious that the car parking is surplus to requirements. These are excellently located sites with top quality public transport access, capable of housing, as you can see, thousands of people. And certainly in the case of 2 of them, the landowners have indicated that they're kind of holding off developing them, and they see them as medium-term projects. And I don't think that's acceptable at a time when we have a housing crisis, when we need land at the best, probably, public transport service location in Fingal to be developed. And so this came up in the context of the variation to the development plan when it became apparent that we hadn't included these sites within our housing capacity assessment. And I think it's vital that we ask the Minister for Housing to propose a change to the legislation so that these sites would no longer be exempt from the residential zone land tax, and we would incentivise their development for housing. Thank you.
Oh, sorry, Councillor McDonough.
Yeah, it makes no sense to be rezoning unsuitable green belt when we have zoned residential land that is being taken up by car parking. And we always have a difficulty in relation to because of the way that the planning system and private property system works. You can zone all the land you like, but it's very hard to force the development of it. But I think this would be one of the mechanisms, so very happy to support it. Thanks.
Councillor Tormey.
Yeah, apologies if I missed it, but I'm not sure if Councillor Healy specified what land he's talking about, but he's using specific examples of a broader issue, and I just wonder if there would have been any unassessed, unintended outcomes for this. Like, I mean, people need cars, people need to be able to park their cars, so I'm not supporting that motion on a place where I'm totally uninformed on that issue. Thank you.
Councillor Leary.
Well, just reading it there and listening to Councillor Healy without knowing the locations, it clearly says that land that has planning permission for residential development currently used as car parking and his point is that it should be built on in the current housing crisis, where I cannot walk the street of Skerries any day without someone tapping me on the shoulder and looking for a home. So I will support the motion.
Councillor Joe Newman.
Yeah, just be quick, because I think it's reasonably motion, and I'll support it. Thanks.
Roisin.
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you, members. So just for clarity in relation to RZLT and where land is exempt, and I think Councillor Healy hasn't mentioned locations, but I am familiar with a few of the sites that I suspect he is referring to. So the car parking has permission. So it's exempt from RZLT because it's actively and lawfully used. So it's where permission has been granted previously, including car parking, that's exempt from RZLT. So just for clarity around that.
Clarification. Is that a temporary permission or a permanent permission?
In 2 of the 3 cases, I think Councillor O'Leary is referring, or Councillor Healy is referring to their permanent position. So it's car parking associated with the shopping centre. So when the shopping centre was developed, this area had this was the car parking associated with it. It remains having a mixed-use town centre zoning, and it's exempt from RZLT as it is in a lawful use that has permission.
Okay, so back to you, Councillor Healy.
Yeah, just from Ms. Burke might also confirm that the fact that it has planning permission for residential use means that our planners and or Ward Finola, whichever planners made the final decision, think that it's appropriate to convert this land from car parking use to residential use.
So do you want to respond?
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you, Councillor Healy. In this instance, the land is zoned for major town centre, so a further application came in for residential use and it was assessed on its own merits. So the zoning hasn't changed. The developer has suggested a change of use of the area, and we have concurred with that because it complies with the policies and objectives of the development plan, but there's been no change to our policy approach.
Thanks for that clarification. Is the motion agreed? We have someone says no, so it's a roll call vote. Thank you.
Results of the vote are yes 16, abstain 8 and no 1.
Thanks very much. So the motion is passed. Item number 17 in the name of Councillor Hopkins. We're going to defer that one. Item number 28 in the name of Councillor John Walsh. Proposed? Thank you. Mary McConnell.
I brought forward this motion because I recently got a number of replies about the number of inactive sites with full planning permission in Fingal, and the most recent, and I want to thank the planning department for it, showed the total number of inactive sites with permission for 5 dwellings or more at the end of each year. I won't go through all of those, but I mean, just to say in 2024 there were 63 total inactive sites, with a total of 8,775 units not commenced, and last year there were 65 total inactive sites with 9,072 total units not commenced. Now, I think those are staggering figures in the middle of a housing crisis, where young people are locked out of the housing market, where many people are struggling to pay rent, and where there's over 17,400 people who are homeless. And it does challenge a dominant narrative from commentators and others that the problem in building homes lies with the planning system. But much more importantly, it means that there's thousands of homes being left unbuilt, and these are not half-built sites. These are sites where development has not even commenced, and where effectively a shovel hasn't been put in the ground. Now, it may be argued there's a range of factors that can lead to this, but in the middle of a housing crisis, we can't or we shouldn't allow a large-scale failure to build homes where planning permission is in place without any consequence. There's a range of incentives that have been given in recent years to encourage developers and builders to build homes. The development levy waiver was only one of those, and those incentives have been quite significant financially. So I suppose we can do what we want in the council in terms of the development plan. We can debate rezoning of land as we did in the recent variation, and we can attempt to provide housing supported by infrastructure. But none of that is going to be very effective if where land is zoned, serviced, and it actually has planning permission, no homes are being built. So the proposal here is that with completely inactive sites, that we should send a motion to the Minister asking the Minister to look at a use it or lose it clause to put that into legislation, so that planning permission would be removed where sites are completely inactive. And that's simply not something that we should lightly tolerate in the middle of a housing crisis. So I'd recommend the motion, and happy to hear any comments that members have.
Okay, number of speakers here. So Councillor Ted Leddy.
Thank you, Mayor. Yeah, look, I share Councillor Watt's frustration at the slow pace of developments. But scrutinising his motion, I suppose I have to just look at one or two things. I mean, the word inactive would cause me a bit of concern. And I know Councillor Watts alluded to it there about it being totally inactive. But I mean, the cause of delays could be widespread. I mean, for example, it could be going through the appeals process. So is that included in the word inactive? And I mean, there's other works such as applying for funding for servicing land, and of course we have to look at, as well, at the knock-on effects of the record number of LAPs and now UAPs, urban area plans that we have, and indeed strategic development zones. So you could be looking at a situation where the developer is contributing to a new school, and we're applying to the Department of Education, and these type of things are the sources of the delays. So I think these are things that need to be considered. And I'd also point out as well that a number of these sites that are inactive would be ones that are there are campaigns to get them stopped. I mean, I'm one of the few politicians I think that's vocally in favour of the Blanchardstown high-rise development. Presumably that would be one such inactive site that Councillor Watts is talking about. So these are just all things to be considered. But I mean, obviously I know it's a good faith motion, and I agree with lots of it. But these are things that we have to tease out. Thanks.
Councillor Joe Newman.
Yeah, thanks, Mayor. I'd like to support the motion, but I think it's a bit too prescriptive, and there's not enough allowances for the eventualities that may pop up, and I don't know how effective it would be in that regard. I'm for building houses, more local authority housing, but we have a development not far from here that was zoned, built on, and it's been lying idle for 3 or 4 years. And now it's just being rented out by the people that build this. So we need to look at how we're zoning land for building homes to make sure that we can, zone land for families and people living here, and probably people that, need maybe social housing, local authority. But I think there's a looseness in the regard of the zoning, and I'm not too sure how we're going to handle that one, but I'd like to see something done about that. But I'm just hopefully Councillor Walsh can, allay my fears about the prescriptive nature of the motion. Thanks.
Thanks, Councillor. Councillor Breen McDonough.
Yeah, I agreed with a lot of what Councillor Walsh said, and the instinct to look at ways of using the carrot rather than just the stick, I think, is a good one. But rare enough as it is, I'm not 100% convinced that I'm prepared to be convinced, but I'm not 100% convinced that losing the planning permission is going to be an effective remedy, because really what it'll mean is that they'll have to another permission will have to be got. We want the houses built on that land as quickly as possible. In fact, some of the problem we have is that the value goes up on granting of a planning permission, and then the site gets flipped at a cost that makes the existing planning permission no longer economic, and you end up an increasing attempt to intensify the development on the site, often resulting in a refusal of a planning permission, which ends up in the courts, or it ends up in another appeal. So the remedy, I think, there is obviously complete structural change, where we would have councils with the option of any land being rezoned to purchase it at existing land value plus 10%, as was recommended in the Kenny report in the late 70s. So I think I'm going to abstain on this motion, Councillor Walsh, because I'm not convinced it's going to make it. I'm not going to make it better. If I get a fit, I might even vote against it. But it's not because I'm. It's not because I don't share your frustrations for the problem.
Councillor James Humphreys.
It's good to hear another councillor reference the Kenny report in this chamber. I'd agree with everything Breen said, apart from not supporting the motion, because I'd certainly see it as an element of an enforcement mechanism that local councils should have. We certainly get the blame from central government for the delay in housing, even though, as you go through the list of issues, none of them are within our control, mainly water and electricity. As to terms, this isn't a new idea. The former Minister for Housing campaigned on it. He certainly spoke an awful lot about it. It was in the draft Planning and Development Bill, and then miraculously overnight, when it entered committee, it disappeared. So some of the problems that Councillor Leddy raised about the timeline after is a judicial review or against it, that's actually already in the legislation. It isn't counted towards the time. So this has been teased out. So the very fact that it wasn't implemented, to me, to this day, is still baffling. It's not going to solve. It certainly won't, in many cases, speed up all the housing that we need. But it is an element to the solution, and it is a power that the council should have, along with the zoning land, to use the carrot and the stick. And this would certainly be on the stick side of it. So I'm supporting the motion, and certainly will encourage everyone to do so too.
Councillor Malachy Quinn.
Yeah, look, I would be supportive of this if it was going to address land hoarding and speculation. But I just think it's a bit, at the moment, it's too loose. I mean, there's other issues that need to be raised around compulsory purchase order, restructuring state development funds for infrastructure, and curtailing and targeting at smaller builders to develop smaller builders to be able to build. But look, I will support it, as Councillor Humphreys has said. It's just one element, and if it's a step forward rather than a step backwards, I can see myself supporting this. Thank you.
Councillor Tom O'Leary.
It's good to have the debate. The LDA are buying sites, the LDA should buy sites, they're not moving. and they should be encouraged to do so more. They bought, is it Clongriffin or Clonshock, I can't remember, 2,300 apartments that we zoned here. Went on the market for 100 million, they got it at 40. And they should be doing more of that, and they are doing it. So there's 65 sites, according to John here beside me, 9,072 homes. How many are subject to the RZLT tax? I don't know if that can be answered today. Or how many sites are subject in Fingal to the RZLT tax? It's in a report somewhere. Revoking the planning permission puts the clock back 2 years. So we're 2 years back. You take the planning off them, we're back 2 years probably to get a new planning. So I'm not sure if that's a good thing to do or not, even though we're frustrated with them. Developers seek time extensions, even though the planning permission left. They haven't time enough to build out a large estate. They might need 5 years and they've only so many years left. That happens regularly and it's not bankable. The banks will not give them money if they can only finish half an estate. So if some of these sites are held up because the government hasn't put in water or sewage, or because CIE hasn't put in buses, and there have been judicial review cases on lack of public transport and planning permissions held back, those sort of things would need to be exempt from this proposal here. If it's outside the control of the builder, that he can't proceed with his planning for a list of reasons, well, there's no point in taking the planning permission off him. You're defeating the purpose, you're holding the whole thing up. So I'm not sure about the whole motion, but if I was to give one key message, it is LDA buy more, LDA or whoever, government, whoever, approved housing bodies, council, buy more sites that are not moving, and maybe the government should give a bigger fund for that and build on them, all tenures, including private. And I'm wondering about 65 sites and the RZLT tax, and is that burner on those sites, even though they're in possession of planning permission?
Thanks, Councillor.
I don't know if the RZLT is allowed to be applied there. Thanks.
Councillor Darren Jack Kelly.
Thank you. I can realise time is going quick here. So just a quick one then. I know we have 7 Fianna Fáil councillors here in this chamber, and I would probably strongly recommend them, or those guys, to really discuss with Minister Brown and sort of have a good discussion when we get this implemented. Thank you.
Can I ask the members, can we extend the meeting to conclude the business on this motion, please? Thank you. So, Councillor J.K. Aware.
Yeah, thanks, Mayor. I'd like to support the motion. I wouldn't really say a similar motion, but my motion also speaks to the same issue, which comes immediately after this, and saying I may not have enough time, probably we may not have enough time to get to my motion. I just wanted to lend my support to the motion, and also to point out that, at this point when we have a housing crisis, it's really very important that we make use of all opportunities, open to us. And it just doesn't make sense that, planning permission will be granted, and after years, the purpose for which the planning permission was granted would not be put to effect. Regardless of the residential zoned land tax that is in place, I'm not really sure that the impact is really being felt. And in relation to the report that I got, I would have loved to know how many such lands exist in Fingal County Council that permission was granted and have not been built on. And again, we obviously have the option of planning enforcement. So how well do we enforce the planning enforcement regulations on developers who do not, build in due time? Because obviously with the housing crisis, we need to ensure that we're using all opportunities available to build and provide housing for residents. Thank you.
Thanks, Councillor. And Roisin to respond. Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you, members. So just in terms of a bit of information around some of the queries or some of the comments there. So at the moment, permission generally lasts for 5 years unless a developer or an applicant seeks a longer period of time. In relation to RZLT, I'm not certain how many of our inactive sites are on the RZLT register, but I can come back. but just so you are aware, by having planning permission, it doesn't tick you off the RZLT register. It still would be looked at, and if it is not in use for anything else, it is more than likely on the RZLT with an active planning permission. So that is the norm. I think that was the main issues around, or the main comments.
Thank you. Councillor Walsh.
Thanks, Mayor, and appreciate it. Thanks for extending the meeting. I'm definitely not going to deal with all of those points in 1 minute, and I will, or 2 minutes, try to stay to time. Yeah, I suppose just on the points, listen, thanks to everyone for contributing. I think a lot of very valid points raised. Just on Councillor Leddy's, I suppose, concerns around what's inactive. I mean, this is meant to apply to sites that are completely inactive, where nothing's been done. And planning permission, and obviously Ms. Burke can comment on this if I'm wrong, but my understanding of planning permission is that the appeals process has been exhausted in terms of uncommissioned planola, that all appeals have been exhausted and full planning is in place. So, there will be no question of anything like this coming into effect where that appeals process to uncommissioned planola was still in effect. I know Councillor Leddy mentioned the Blanchardstown high-rise. In fairness, we did have different opinions on that, but my understanding from the most recent application from the owners is they're not going ahead with that, at least in the short term. In terms of urban area plans, local area plans, they would proceed. Typically, I mean, the local area plan, the urban area plan, would not come into this, because it would typically precede planning permissions, for example, in an area like Dunsink. I fully agree with the points made by Councillor McDonagh. Well, I almost fully agree with Councillor McDonagh, and I fully agree with Councillor Quinn. Listen, this is not a silver bullet for the housing crisis, and it shouldn't be presented as such. It's only one element in a whole range of solutions, and we need to be open to trying to pull as many levers as possible to solve the housing crisis. And that includes things we wouldn't necessarily go for. I think it's been really good that the debate hasn't broken down on party lines. I want to thank Councillor McDonagh for that. And it's a proper cross-party debate, and we're genuinely trying to grapple with the issues. So I appreciate all the comments that have been made, and notwithstanding them, I would seek to agree the motion, but I do recognise the many valid points made by members.
Okay, so is the motion agreed? Okay, we have to go to roll call vote. Thank you. Just while we're setting up the roll call, before we conclude the meeting, if anyone wants their motion moved, accept the report. I need a proposer and a seconder. So, Mary, what number is it? Number 30. Have you a seconder for number 30? Thanks very much, Mark Boland. Seconded that. Have you one, Mark, on the agenda? Are you seconding that one? Okay, thank you. Anyone else want to move their motions? Okay, thank you.
The results of the vote are yes 10, abstain 6, no 9.
So the motion is passed. Thank you very much. And that concludes the meeting. Thank you.